95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
$255.4 million per club will be the salary cap.
And the Chiefs are signing punter Matt Ariza.
Mike Danger.
We need a fast ferry.
Gene Battaglia.
Cheeseburger fat boy.
You are a cheeseburger fat boy.
Amerks Hockey.
Amerks Belleville, tonight at 7.
Undisputably, Rochester, going into the Amerks Hall of Fame. We welcome in Roy Fitzpatrick.
It'll be an emotional night, and from an athlete's perspective, I think just playing in the NHL is a huge accomplishment. But as just a person, I think my 4 kids are by far my biggest accomplishment.
It is a Sabres game day tonight in Columbus.
The MLB needs to fix these new uniforms before the season starts because of these see-through pants.
Some bats and balls to look at.
So the take is
Be cool.
Kevin Durant is your favorite player who makes it hard to like him sometimes.
They allegedly called him the B word.
I am not retired. I am N-O-T. Not retiring.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Man, it feels good to be up Friday here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, happy you're with us and listening along at 95.7 FM and AM 950. Rochester's only local sports talk show. You can hear us where we sound our best, the free to download Odyssey app. Also, our video stream up at The Fan Rochester, our YouTube channel on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe while you are there. We're engaging with you online on Elon's Twitter. That's X at The Fan Rochester. And man, we can't wait to engage with you on the phone lines as well at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. I am Mike Danger. That is Gene Battaglia.
And winter would not be bad if the sun were out the majority of the days like today.
Today felt nice. Yeah. Dad run hit a little differently this morning. It's that, but there is that post-winter sludge that comes with this time of year. Like the sun is out, it's nice, it feels good, but you feel like everything needs a good once-over, right? Your car needs a good once-over. The streets need a good once-over.
Too much salt everywhere.
Salt
like
everywhere.
Garage,
yeah,
disgusting.
Just grimy and kind of grubby. I noticed the sludge on the curb as you're walking into our studios here. Just residual dirt and grime from a winter's worth of salting and just mud. So it is nice to get the sun out. It does, but I'm not going to lie, man. Seeing pictures from the Mexico Open, watching spring training in Arizona, it's like, okay, we're getting there. We will have the grass will be green once again. The sun will be out more consistently once again. We're almost there.
Yeah, I get to have you put baseball on here with no objection, even though this is meaningless spring training.
Well, I mean, is it meaningless? Because we're getting quite a show with every spring training baseball game. Every Major League Baseball game that we're going to have this season comes with, it's a show.
It shouldn't be a show. Now are you coming around to, you baseball people, what are you upset about the uniforms? No. Like,
I just think it's fun. It's a fun thing to get angry about. Like, I don't blame the players if they're upset about these uniforms because you can see through these uniforms. Guys, come on. What are we doing? Could we clean it up a little bit? It's a little much.
But they, the performance wear, so much better.
Yeah. Well, do you think Rob Manfred has ever worn a baseball uniform?
No.
Not even like one of those fantasy camps that you like to talk about?
Okay, stop. Fantasy camps I'd like to talk about. I just brought it up once and I said, hey, I'd like to go to one. And then I knew that button was going to be hit. Just imagine a world where you play baseball all day. Mm-hmm. Why is that such a bad thing? Why does that make me a nerd?
Because you got to wear the costume that goes with it. You're just going to be out there wearing the costume, pretending like you're a professional.
Costume.
Pretending like you're a professional. It's like, wait, Halloween's in October, pal. What are you doing? That's not.
So it's the costume. So like you and I both made fun of the people paying $15,000 for the Coach K camp. They're not in costume, not wearing Duke uniforms. They're playing in Cameron Indoor.
Yeah, that's just as bad.
Yeah.
$15,000 for that? Yeah, that's a special kind of crazy.
No, I would put it this way: has Rob Manfred ever worn a baseball cap?
Ooh, I'm going to say yes on that. Are there guys out there that have never worn a baseball cap? I mean, as a kid, you wear a baseball cap. As you grow up, you wear a through college. I mean, like, I'm still a cap guy. I still like to wear a cap every now and then. That's what kind of guy doesn't wear a baseball cap ever?
I have a picture of him in a white hat. That does not count. He's on a golf course.
So it's a baseball cap. It's
I want a
team
baseball, something that says, hey.
Well, he can't.
Major League Baseball.
The only thing he could wear is like what Rob Lowe wore to the playoff game, right? It'd have to be a cap with the MLB logo on it. Just, I'm Rob Manfred and I support the league. I'm a fan of the league.
Can't Major League Baseball.
Yeah, can't show preference to a team. You're the commish. We've got a great show lined up for you this afternoon here in the Sports Bar. We'll talk some Syracuse hoops, and we'll get excited for Syracuse football as well. Well, Mike Waters, obviously covering the Orange men's basketball team, doing a great job. And it's Jim Boeheim Day tomorrow at the Dome. You can read his work at the Syracuse Post-Standard, NewYorkUpstate.com. We'll get an Orange men's basketball update from Mike Waters here in a few.
Yeah, as we revisit, I think, is complicated too strong a word? It's just the Jim Boeheim's legacy did a lot of good things. There were some scandals. Yeah, I think complicated does fit for Jim Boeheim, but he'll be celebrated tomorrow, and to this day he still is the most famous person in central New York. You can argue outside of the Buffalo Bills in West New York, most famous person in upstate New York, maybe the governor, Jim Boeheim. Yeah, he'll be honored tomorrow. They're playing a crappy Notre Dame team. They should win this game.
Should win. Yes. I that's interesting. Yeah, Central New Yorkers have a different love affair with Boeheim than I think outsiders do.
Yes.
And there are even people, it's almost as if Central New Yorkers have been brainwashed or just, they are just blindly following whatever it is that Boeheim does. He can do no wrong. Meanwhile, you have alumni and people that have gone on to bigger and better things that they have nothing but negatives to say about Boeheim, about the program, all of it. And that's always been curious. I've always been curious about that. What is that? Is that because of how they were treated? When Jason LaCanfora was at Syracuse, did the basketball team stuff him in a locker? I don't know what happened that made a guy like LaCanfora despise the men's basketball program the way he does.
Or Damon Amendola, or how many other media types from Syracuse that are critical, but then people in Syracuse, I think, look at it this way, Danger. Well, during these winters, this was always an entertaining product for the most part. They were competitive. One year they won the whole thing. A lot of times they would make the NCAA tournament. So your expectations were met more often than not.
It's pride, right?
Yeah.
It's pride in the coach. It's pride in the program. It's like the pride that we have for our fast ferry.
It's also he never left. That's a big part of the equation, too, that if Jim Boeheim, at some point in the 80s, there was some team out from the West Coast, the SEC, or wherever, the NBA. I remember he was talking to the Washington, what were they called back then, the Bullets, and he didn't go. He stayed in Syracuse. Well, yeah, you get bonus points. I stay here. This is my home.
During happy hour today in the Sports Bar, we'll check in with David Haugh of Mully & Haugh. That's the morning show on 670 The Score, our Odyssey Sports sister station out of Chicago. Want to get Haugh's take on what's going on with the Chicago Bears and number one overall pick. And we will get to this. We know what the salary cap is going to be for the upcoming season. And we know that next week with the Combine Indianapolis, a lot of teams will begin to negotiate deals with their pending free agents, and maybe you're able to keep one or two. We'll see, depending on what your team's cap situation is. We'll talk about what that all means for the Bills. But when we have David Haugh with us during happy hour, we'll kind of focus in a little bit on the top of the draft, all of the options that are available to the Chicago Bears, and whether or not they want to continue on the path of Justin Fields.
Well, if Fields stays, will Bears fans be like, "Come on, what are we doing here?" Or do they want Fields to stay?
I'm kind of curious to get his perspective on that. I mean, he talks to the fans every day on his show, and I wonder if you're a Chicago fan, if moving on from Justin Fields, do you just view that as ownership being too cheap to want to pay a franchise quarterback? There are fans that
have dug in and say we want Fields to stay. There are fans that view Fields as just a guy that can't get it done. So very polarizing situation there with Justin Fields, the Chicago Bears, and with the number 1 overall pick. Really, they hold all the cards. They are the first domino that will fall before everything else at the end of April happens. So we'll talk a little bit about that during happy hour coming up later this afternoon here in the Sports Bar. As I mentioned, your phone calls are always welcome. You can join us at 585-866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. It's up 13.6% year to year. The NFL salary cap for 2024 has been announced at $255.4 million.
That's unbelievable. And with the Buffalo Bills, just the idea that we had the report originally last week, it's going to go up to 250. Oh my gosh, that'll go give the Bills an extra 7. Now you're talking about an extra 5 on top of that. This doesn't solve all the problems, but here is my take on this, Danger. It's what this means is the pain of getting cap compliant, I think, is going to be lessened. You can do this with a couple of moves, and I'm looking at maybe a Josh Allen restructure, maybe a Deion Dawkins restructure. You cut Tre'Davious White. I don't think there's a lot of pain there, honestly. I don't know what he has left. Maybe you can bring him back at a lower rate later on, but you move on from that. And there's another player that we kind of forgot about that you would save nearly $5 million. That's Nyheim Hines. Yeah, he's still on the books, and that's base salary, so that's eminently cuttable. So, my opinion, Danger, this means that the Buffalo Bills aren't going to have to make any tough decisions like, wow, do we have to cut Mitch Moore? No, you don't have to do anything. I just think that if you're expecting this news today that the Bills will be able to go out and go, sign a wide receiver or do something like that. Well, the cap went up for everybody. Yep. So if the Bills want to do any shopping whatsoever, that's going to get more difficult.
What led to this increase? Well, there's a couple of factors. One, everybody's kind of free and clear of whatever they lost during COVID. So not only is business good, business is better than it's ever been. And the media rights deals that the NFL have signed here have just added fuel to the fire. I mean, they're just exploding. 13.6% increase in the salary cap. So if any player wants to complain about a Thursday night game, or if any fan wants to complain about the wild card packages being sold to a streamer exclusively, hey, that's part of the NFL's plan here to get players a little bit more, to get teams a little bit more flexibility. The top end, top tier talent will get more in free agency now that we know that the cap is rising at this significant a rate.
Yeah, well, okay. So when you have to pay for Amazon for the playoff game or whatever it is next year, know that you're going toward your favorite teams.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Correct. And that's why it also gives you a little bit of clarity as far as what each position will make with their 5th-year option as they're coming off of their rookie deal, first round draft picks, I should say. So a guy like Greg Rousseau, who the Bears have to still, or the Bills still have to make a decision on, as far as whether or not they want to, exercise his 5th-year option. You know that 5th-year option will come in at just over $13 million for 2025. You have to make that decision now. Before I think May 2nd, I want to say is the deadline.
I would be stunned if they didn't exercise the option on Greg Rousseau.
Well, and it's funny how they tier the revenue that you're guaranteed on that 5th-year option. It's incentivized by Pro Bowl appearances. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, like higher rate if you make it to multiple Pro Bowls. So in this instance, Greg Rousseau not making it to Pro Bowls actually saves the Bills some money on his 5th-year option. So when you look at $13 million for a defensive end who's young and has the size that Greg Rousseau has, it's kind of a bargain. Like, it would be stunning if they didn't exercise that 5th-year option.
Hear that, everybody, because fan vote is part of it. Don't vote any Buffalo Bills next year. You need to help the Bills with the cap.
I mean, Edmonds made a lot of Pro Bowls while he was with the Buffalo Bills, and his 5th-year option was picked up, and he did pretty well for himself.
Yeah, and because that, and then he walks out the door, the Bills, we still don't have an official word, but pretty much everybody's saying the Bills are going to get that 3rd-round pick back for Edmonds.
Oh, yes, the compensatory draft pick that has a formula attached to it that nobody understands.
Right. Couldn't explain to you if my life depended on it.
That's correct. With the news of the salary cap increasing, you got a couple of teams. I wonder if there are teams that have made moves before the like, if you're a team and your team made moves for cap compliancy before the cap was announced, do you have regret now? Do you have like remorse for making the moves that you made now, knowing that, oh my God, we thought it would be up, but we didn't know it'd be that up? Holy cow. A couple of restructures around the NFL, notably with quarterbacks, the Saints restructuring Derek Carr.
Why? Because that's their only option.
Well,
yeah, good luck.
You want to keep Jameis Winston around as a starter because that's his goal. He wants to start again in the NFL. $30 million base salary has been converted to a portion of that $30 million base salary for Derek Carr has been converted to a signing bonus, and that's also the same story in Seattle with Geno Smith. He had his $9.6 million roster bonus converted into a signing bonus. So there's some cap savings for the Seahawks, some cap savings for the Saints. And in Tampa, the reports are that the Bucs and Baker Mayfield have begun contract talks. Jason Light, the Bucs GM, is going to meet with Mayfield's agent at Tamperfest.
Tamperfest.
Yeah, Tamperfest in Indianapolis, the Combine next week. So keep in mind that if they can't get a deal done before March 13th, Mayfield could actually go to a team offering more. He's scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent. So the Bucs and Mayfield have begun talking about a new deal for Baker Mayfield in Tampa.
Yeah, that's good business there. Yeah, Monday, we're hoping to talk to Mike Catalan at 13 Web. He's going to be in Indianapolis, and I was talking to Mike today. Not sure what time Sean McDermott is actually going to speak on Monday, so pretty much everybody's kind of on standby. Monday's is kind of the arrival date. Like, not much is going to be happening, but McDermott's going to be there because of the competition committee.
Yeah, it's funny, though. Sean McVay will not. Sean McVay doesn't go to the Combine.
Right.
Hasn't gone, I think, since 2020, and isn't going this year. So do the competition committee, do they include the virtual meeting option? Like, is McVay dialing in via Zoom? Do they make that concession for him?
I always kind of got it from the standpoint of, hey, Combine, you gave up your first and your second round pick. What are we doing there? But what is the Combine really about? I think of the interviews. If I'm a decision maker in the NFL, I'm still out there for the interviews. Some really like to partake in the networking, which that's fine too. And for Sean McVay, hey, I got everything set up I need to here in Los Angeles.
It's funny. It's I think there's probably a layer of trust that exists between McVay and whoever his player personnel and GM, like they that he trusts that they're going to go out there, get the players that they know will work with him. He'll do the studying. Like, everybody processes things their own way. McVay is crazy, right? Like, he's got the photographic memory, and he, like, he'll look at things and remember them, and so it's probably not in his best interest to be there talking to players and stuff. He can do that after he gets the scouting report from everybody that's there on his behalf. That's the way he does it. And hell, who are we to judge? They've been pretty successful with Sean McVay there in Los Angeles, even with the F them picks mentality that they had for a couple of years.
See, that's the crazy thing about the league. How is it the Rams could use a 7th round pick on Puka Nacua? Like, wouldn't you be so happy if the Buffalo Bills used a 7th round pick and that's what it turned into? And look, by the way, the Bills got a 6th round pick in Christian Benford. So
the same, Gino. Not as impactful. Come on now. You can't compare those two. That's not the same thing. I mean, Benford's nice, but Benford's not what Nakua's going to be. What do you think Nakua's going to be in year 2 in that offense? My God.
He's on track to be one of the best receivers in the game.
Right.
Well, Christian Benford is, where would we put him as far as one of the corners in the game? I mean, it's a really good start.
The other player that they have that they probably, like, this is found money. For a team that was F them picks, they sure maximized on Kobe Turner. I mean, their defensive line is set. Yeah, Aaron Donald can walk away when he wants to walk away. You've got a star in Kobe Turner. He's going to be a force for that defensive line for years to come. And you just kind of stumbled across that guy as well. So I hard to say that the Rams or that Sean McVay needs to be present at the Combine. When they have had draft picks, they've maximized them. That is those two players are going to be special next year for that team. So Sean McDermott, Monday, Mike Catalana, the icon in
Indianapolis. Everybody kind of heading out there for the annual convention. That is the what did you call it?
Tamperfest.
Tamperfest,
yeah. Tamperfest. It's just one giant festival of tampering.
Yeah. Do you think Gabe Davis's representation has already heard from somebody that said, "Look, just talking around." Yeah,
for sure. I mean, when did he put out the video? Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when he heard. He probably heard from somebody Monday. President's
probably
Day.
Heard. Oh, I've got a pending offer of this coming up. Bye, Buffalo. Bye.
Yeah. Make it easy for him. Make it easy for me. There's no way they're going to match what I'm being offered by somewhere else. Yeah, I mean, Spot Track had it at 13.5. That is his estimated annual per, as far as the value of Gabe Davis moving forward. If a team gave him $14 million per, would you blink? I wouldn't blink. I feel like that's going to happen.
Especially when the cap just went up, in the blink of an eye by 12?
Yeah.
There's your found money.
He's going to get $15 million per year. Watch. Let's get to Mike Waters and talk some Syracuse men's basketball with Mike Waters of the Syracuse Post-Standard. Jim Boeheim Day at the Dome tomorrow afternoon. Notre Dame, the opponent. We'll talk about the Orange and their chances of maybe getting into the tournament. What is the outlook for the rest of the season here? And of course, the tournament season as we talk some Orange Hoop next in the Sports Bar. Your calls are always welcome. Join us at 866-4326-585. 866-4FAN.
You're listening to the
NFL teams have been told that the salary cap is going to go up to $255 million. Chris Brown discusses what that means for the Bills.
For the Bills now, with this new cap of $255.4, they're anywhere from like 37 to 42 million over instead of 50 to 55 million over. So the number is better. Because you could argue $13 million, what is that? Well, depending on how much you're willing to pay people, that could be as many as 3 players.
Combine will begin on Monday in Indy. Hockey tonight. Well, if you got your choice here, the Amerks once again hosting Belleville. Don Stevens has your call beginning at 7. Amerks falling on Wednesday night to the Sens. The Sabres are in Columbus tonight, looking to make it 2 in a row. Sabres hockey can be heard tonight on 96.5 WCMF. RAT, the men are home tonight. It's the front end of the home and home against Canisius. Gene Battaglia on the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Should be a special afternoon in Syracuse tomorrow. Jim Boeheim Day at the Dome as the Orange men's basketball team take on Notre Dame. Let's talk a little Orange hoops with Mike Waters of the Syracuse Post-Standard. Mike, we want to talk about the significance of tomorrow and everything that's planned, before the game, during the game. But let's talk a little bit about this team. They've been a little up and down, but the highs have been pretty high. The lows have been pretty low as well. Just give us your overall assessment of Red Autry's first season here as head coach, replacing Jim Boeheim.
Well, you're right. This team has been very up and down. They've been winning one, losing one, winning one, losing one now for about 3 weeks, and never really able to put together much of a winning streak at any point during the season. So it's been a struggle. But I tell you what, in terms of the job Adrian Autry's done as a first-year rookie head coach, I think he's done amazingly well. I mean, he's sitting at 17-10 overall. He's 500 in the ACC. He's got a team right now that he's starting 5 sophomores. His first player off the bench is another sophomore. He has no seniors on the roster, hasn't had a senior on the roster all year long. He only had 2 juniors entering the season. One, Benny Williams, has been dismissed from the program several weeks ago, and the other was a transfer, Naheem McLeod, who played in just the first 14 games of the year before being sidelined for the rest of the season with a foot injury that required surgery. He had another guy that they thought would be in the rotation, Chance Westry, a transfer from Auburn, hasn't played all year after injuring his knee just before the start of the season. You know, I think he's done really well, especially when you look at what Syracuse's record has been in the last 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, he's already equaled last year's win total. He's exceeded the win total from 2 years ago when they had the only losing record in Jim Boeheim's entire 47-year career. So, this was not, taking over a team that was, had been going great guns. It's like the program had been kind of, bumping along, struggling a little bit, not making the NCAA tournament each of the last 2 years. So to be 17-10 right now and still have a glimmer of hope in an NCAA tournament bid, not that I actually think they'll get there, but there's still hope. I think Red Autry's done a great job.
Yeah, I thought at the beginning of the year, like a flaw on the team was, oh, wait, they can't shoot. And that was the case in the beginning. But then now you see Chris Bell doing what he does. Is the focus here, whether that's through the portal or whether that's just getting some kid out of high school, what are you getting bigger down low, just getting better at rebounding? Is that the number one need on this team, would you say, Mike?
Oh, boy, there's a lot of number one needs. You hit on a couple of the big ones. The shooting has been an issue. You want to find some guys who can provide more consistent shooting. I mean, I think part of the reason they've been up and down is because their shooting is so wildly inconsistent. In their 8, I'm not going to get the numbers exactly right, but I did them just the other day. In their 8 Atlantic Coast Conference wins, from three-point range, they're shooting about 38, almost 39%. That's pretty good as a team. But in the 8 losses, they're shooting 23% from three-point range, and that's not going to win you a lot of games. And it's so disparate. I mean, 38 to 23 is just, so yeah, they got to find someone who can not only make threes but do it more consistently. That would be a big help. You mentioned the rebounding. They do have to improve their size. I think that might have to be done through the portal. The shooting, you hope a few guys are going to be able to improve and get better and just be more consistent. J.J. Starling, I think he's already shown a vast amount of improvement from early in the year when he couldn't buy a bucket. Chris Bell, you mentioned him. Geez, he's coming off a game where he made 8 3-pointers at North Carolina State in one half, which was ridiculous. They got a few other guys who are looking to improve. The kids they brought in as recruits, Donnie Freeman next year, he's a 6'7", 6'8" forward. He shoots it well. Elijah Moore, 6'3" guard out of New York City. He's a real sniper, real good shooter. So I think those guys will help the shooting, but they're not going to help in terms of size. So if you really want to add some size and rebounding, I think you're looking at the portal. And I imagine that they're probably already got their radar out there, guys that, they're going to look at and see if these, certain guys, if they're hearing through back channels or planning on entering the portal, they probably got some people they're targeting.
Yeah, Mike, I'm glad you brought up the portal because as we're talking about the job that Autry has done this year in his first year, coming in after Jim Boeheim, and the world has changed. Not only are you looking at that portal for potential for next season, but you're also thinking about retention. So my question is, who can we expect back next year for Syracuse? Do you think that there will be some turnover here with this roster being as young as it is?
The easiest answer is say yes, expect turnover. In this day and age of NIL and the portal, yes, turnover is a given, almost regardless of what program you're talking about. So expect guys to go. I don't know exactly who. The fact that, Benny Williams has already been dismissed, I don't know if that's going to change some guys' thinking. Rumors are rampant out there. Judah Mintz, people, Georgetown fans, I think have already fitted him for a jersey. They're so convinced that Judah's going to be in the portal and that Ed Cooley's got some sort of trust fund down there for like millions of dollars in NIL money that he can spend. Right before you brought me on, I heard you talking about the NFL salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're headed in college basketball, and some programs are already there. They have an NIL collectives and funds. They know exactly how much, and now it's just trying to figure out, well, how much are we going to spend on a shooting guard this year, or is our major area of need a center, and that's how much we're going to spend on that guy. And I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of screw-ups early on. Look at how much money West Virginia spent on Jesse Edwards, and they got a losing record. And West Virginia, their collectives, their coaches, they all have to ask themselves, were we really smart in spending, listen, the dollar figures that were thrown out there for Jesse were anywhere between $600,000 and $800,000. So they spent over $500,000 easy on a center that didn't help them get a winning record. So, and I think you're going to see more cases like that where, unless you get smart about it, to the point where Major League Baseball and NFL and NBA general managers are, you're going to see some schools really mismanage funds. You got to be smart. But yeah. I don't think I've directly answered your question. I think I got a little bit sidetracked. But
let me.
The whole NIL issue is it's so huge right now.
Gino, put a pin in what you're going to say, because my follow-up to that was going to be, again, talking about the job that we think that Coach Autry has done so far this year. It feels to me like, if anything, he's built a culture, and that some of these guys, they might not be consistently doing it, but it feels as if the guys that are there, the guys that are contributing, are bought in to that culture. Now, I know culture doesn't pay the rent, but is there something to that, the job that he's done in terms of building his team with his guys and developing this culture?
I think that's something that he set out to do from day one. And just in the way that he handled Benny Williams, before the season started. I mean, here's a kid that started a majority of the games last year. Coming back this year, he was supposed to be the starting power forward on a team that had a lot of other inexperienced guys, and he suspended him before the season started. Suspended him for the last exhibition game and for the first 2 or 3 regular season games to 2 regular season games. He was setting the standard, his expectations, and if you don't meet them, anybody can. You're going to be punished and be penalized until you'll learn to meet the standard. And whether it was breaking rules or being on time for this or whatever it was, obviously Benny didn't quite get the message, or just couldn't. I think he got the message, just couldn't play by those rules. He ends up getting suspended again for a game in Hawaii against Gonzaga. Sits again, supposedly not a suspension, but curious in that he didn't play at all against Cornell. And then, never reinstated as a starter, comes off the bench until finally getting dismissed. And, I think that's all part of the process of a first-year head coach, trying to build his culture, trying to set his own standards. I mean, it's on the wall behind Adrian Autry's desk up at the Mello Center are the words Orange Standard. And I think that's just one of the mantras that he's been trying to drill into his team right from the get-go this year.
The question I was going to ask you, Mike Waters, Syracuse Post-Standard, because right now in our studio we got baseball on. The Dodgers are playing, and boy, they spent a lot of money in free agency. And like free agency to me, Mike, whatever the sport is, to some degree, in hockey it's complete fool's gold. In other sports, it's not the best path. And I'm just wondering, or can we liken this to the portal here? Because you don't know what you're bringing in. Could you see Syracuse? Would he be better served if Red Autry just sits down with John Whitehawk and look, let's just pay our own here and we'll kind of build from there. You've seen it to the extreme in Clemson football, for example, with Dabo Swinney saying, hey, we're not going to use the portal at all. I don't know if that's the answer, but your thoughts on how to build, and should there actually be like a general manager, say, of Syracuse basketball to kind of consider all these options?
Yeah, and they've got a few people that don't have that title directly yet, but they're the ones that are kind of monitoring all this. The new assistant coach, Brendan Strawn, I think, he's kind of the guy that oversees a lot of the recruiting, and, he definitely has an eye for numbers. I think he was a math major at college. So, between analytics, advanced metrics that they use in terms of game planning and using on the court, I think he's a guy who's also going to help them off the court. The use of the portal, I think, you can liken it to some of the pro sports and the salary caps and free agency, but there's going to be a difference at the college level. The portal does allow you to bring in experience and to bring in age, and that can make a huge difference. I mean, if you try to build strictly through recruiting and you're too young, you get what Syracuse was last year. 6 players and 1 freshman class was way too young in today's college game. I mean, they had a lot of talent, and we're seeing how they're even better this year, but they're still, even this year, is a predominantly sophomore team. They're running up against teams like North Carolina, which has an average age of like 23 and a half years old. I mean, Cormac Ryan is at his 3rd school, and he's been at Stanford, Notre Dame, and now North Carolina. He's 25 years old. Armando Bacot is in his 5th year at Carolina. That Carolina is not the only school that has gotten old. And Dabo Swinney at Clemson might say, well, we're not going to use the portal, but you know what? He's still using NIL. He's only using it probably with more of an emphasis on retention than going out and procuring guys. So he's not using the portal, but he is using NIL. And let's face it, the two are basically one and the same. The only difference now with the portal is, from a few years back, is guys can transfer and play right away. And that does make that transfer more valuable. It's like, I don't have to wait on him. He doesn't have to sit out a year. I get that. He's useful right away. But again, we're going to see some things that just miss. I mean, schools like West Virginia, I think, are going to spend money foolishly. Some players are going to go into situations that's not the fit they think it was. But other players are going to hit the portal and they're going to do great, and it's going to work out, and they'll get both money, and hopefully they also go to a place where they can play and succeed and thrive and maybe even improve their NBA chances. And we're going to hear mostly about those stories, especially when the NCAA tournament rolls around, because basically anybody who's in the NCAA tournament is already a success story. So everyone's going to be talking about how great the portal is. You'll hear that. Trust me. Throughout March, you're going to hear how great it is. But because we're not hearing from? We're not hearing from the 280 teams that didn't make the tournament and their kids who weren't good fits or ended up being a problem,
Mike, break down the rest of the regular season schedule here for the Orange. It looks like a 20-win season isn't out of reach. 3 of these 4 games. Is it realistic to think that they could win 3 of 4? Is 2-2 the best outcome here as you head into the ACC tournament? What are your thoughts?
Man, trying to get a beat on this team is ridiculously hard. Like we said from the start, we were talking about how they win one, they lose one. They win one, they lose one. How does a team go from beating North Carolina to then losing it to Georgia Tech? You can't explain it, except that I guess every team in the ACC is dangerous enough, especially if you're on the road. They got the next 2 games are at home. Saturday against Notre Dame. You would think, Notre Dame, they're only 5-10 in the league. Yeah, but they've won 3 in a row. They're starting to play good. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. Syracuse, struggles at times to shoot the ball and score. Notre Dame wants to keep this game in the 50s or 60s at the highest. And if they succeed at doing that, it's going to be a struggle. Now, if Syracuse gets going and they can maybe get some steals and get out in transition, get this game in the 70s, it's Syracuse's game. But and then you move on to Virginia Tech on Tuesday, and 2 weeks ago, I said, Virginia Tech, you should win that game at home. And then we watched Virginia Tech just blitz Virginia the other night.
Yeah.
And you're like, maybe it's not such a short thing anymore. So is it within reach to get to 20 wins, to win 3 of your last 4? Yeah, it's within reach. Is it realistic? Probably, but I tell you what, it's probably more realistic to say they're just going to go 2-2 because, you got that road game at Clemson to end the season, and that's senior night at Clemson. And I guarantee you, guys like P.J. Hall and Joe Girard are not going to want to lose their last, college home game. So especially P.J. Hall, who's spent his whole career at Clemson, it's going to be a very meaningful night for him. But then you think, the road game at Louisville, we're all counting that as a win, right? They beat Louisville by 2 points. It came down to the last second against Louisville just to beat them at home. So I don't know how you just slip that into the win column with a great deal of confidence. So, man, they could go anywhere from 0-4 down the stretch to 3-1. But it's just the way it is right now when you're a middle-of-the-pack team in the ACC.
Mike, tomorrow is going to be special. It's not your typical regular season game. By the way, good job by you. Anybody wants the extra content here, your podcast series this week, talking to Patino, talking to Lawrence Moten, just kind of reliving a lot of great stories here. But I just asked the question open-ended. What do we expect tomorrow here with Jim Boeheim Day?
It's going to be different than any other ceremony we've seen. Almost every ceremony is a halftime deal. You only get about 5-7 minutes. You're onto the court. You're off the court. You unveil a jersey, or you hand someone a framed jersey on senior day, or if it's Ring of Honor day. This one's postgame. They're moving this to postgame. I talked to athletic director John Wildhack the other day, and he said it wouldn't do it justice if we did it at halftime. This is going to be a presentation, a prolonged event. And Mike Tirico is going to be the master of ceremonies. I know they've got a lot of former players coming in. I just saw Danny Shays last night. So he has come in from Phoenix, Arizona for it. He was telling me that a bunch of his former teams, like Leo Routens, is coming in. Tony Bruin's going to be here. So these are people coming in from way outside the area, and then you got a lot of local guys. Some of the younger guys are still involved with coaching now, or they're playing somewhere. So you're not going to see some, but I think it's still going to be a pretty amazing event. And, it's going to be interesting because, it's going to be after the game. So even the current players, they're telling us the players, they're going to be watching the event courtside. So they're going to stay out there for it. The fans are going to remain in their seats. It's going to be just an event on top of a game, and you just hope that they can win.
Yeah.
So that, if you're a Syracuse, athletic official, or if you're, Mike Tirico or Jim Boeheim or whatever, you're hoping for a win, because you're remembering 2 years ago when Duke was going to celebrate Mike Krzyzewski for his last home game at Cameron Indoor. And those folks wearing the lighter shade of blue came from 7 miles down the road and came in and just ruined the party, right? Yeah. So, listen, it's going to be an event no matter what. A win would put everybody in a better frame of mind, I'm sure. But, Red Autry was kidding about it earlier in the week. He's like, yeah, thanks. I need more pressure.
Mike, Gene used a word earlier when we were talking about the legacy of Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. The word you used was complicated.
Complicated. I'm just asking the question out loud. Is that too strong a word? And you add everything up. And look, he celebrated, but there were some stories along the way. Is that too strong a word, Mike?
What word would you use, Mike?
Oh, I don't know. Complicated? Yeah, maybe that's not unfair. I tend at this point with career over. He's been stepped away from it. He retired after last season. At this point, yeah, I know you had the 2 NCAA sanctions. The years where you weren't allowed to go to the tournament in 1993 and 2015. Those don't look good on any coach's record, but you really look back and it's like, how bad were those violations, really, especially when you compare it to like what other programs have done or gotten away with or allowed to legally do now, by the way. Syracuse got banned from the 2015 tournament for something that nowadays wouldn't be a drop in the bucket in terms of NIL. But you look at 47 years as a head coach, 35 NCAA tournament appearances, 5 Final Fours, the national championship, multiple NBA first-round draft picks. I think that outweighs everything else. I really do. Won a variety of ways, built a program that filled a Carrier Dome. I think that's more than what I think what I'll really remember about Jim Boeheim's coaching career is the longevity of it and the sustained success over such a long period of time.
Mike, I know that basketball is your thing, but the Orange football team has been making some noise there locally as well, and I just wanted to get your pulse on what you're hearing from fans of the Orange football team, the program, and everything that's gone on here with since the departure of Dino Babers.
Well, Fran Brown and his staff got everybody excited, that's for sure, with their success in the transfer portal, their success in their high school recruiting, the early signing period. It'll be really interesting. I mean, he has gotten guys to come here that have resumes and pedigrees beyond anything we've seen out of Syracuse's recruiting in decades, really, at least a couple of decades. Now, we have to see if these guys can play. Are they transferring for a reason, or was it just maybe playing time and opportunity, but they actually are good? We have to see if Fran Brown and his staff can coach them. But for now, there is definitely a sense of excitement in the air around the program.
Mike Waters, Syracuse Post-Standard, and you and Donna do a great job covering the team, although Donna, and we joke about this every year, she can't pick the NCAA tournament at all, and I think maybe it'd be fun inviting her on for more bad picks coming up here in March, Mike.
Donna and I joke with each other all the time about how our picks, and we know so much about the game, and we know which team is going to be like, oh, that's the upset pick, and our brackets are ruined by Saturday of the first weekend every year. It's like, I know just enough to pick a team for an upset, and then they fall 2 points shy of the upset, I hate brackets. Let's just put it out there. It's just, I have some buddies here in town that I do a bracket contest with them. Listen, the year I win is the year I go in and retire.
Well,
I'm done.
That's what makes it tough, right? Like you,
I'm not retiring though, because I'm never winning this thing.
You, me, Gino, anybody that does this, what we do for a living, we're the quote unquote experts. How could we possibly we're expected to go in? And Gino is maybe one of the exceptions where he does win the bracket challenge every single year here in our office. But aside from that,
you know what I win? I win the NFL playoff challenge.
Yeah, right.
I do. Yeah. I have no experience covering the NFL.
Mike, it is great having you on with us, man. A true joy. Appreciate you giving us some time this afternoon. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy tomorrow. We know what a special day it's going to be at the Dome, and thanks for helping us paint a picture.
Hey, always good chatting with you guys. You have a great weekend.
You got
All right.
it.
Thanks,
There's
Mike.
Mike Waters of the Syracuse Post-Standard. Tomorrow, Jim Boeheim Day at the Dome is Q's men's basketball team hosting Notre Dame.
Well, that's interesting that this is not going to be halftime. It's not pregame. It's postgame. So how long does Jim Boeheim speak? Like, you were there. You were looking at your watch there, or you were just taking it all in?
I don't think anybody's. If you're sticking around, look, so much does hinge on them winning. Like, your mood is going to be dictated. Everybody's mood is going to be dictated on a win.
Waters is being nice about Notre Dame. Yes, they've won their last 3. They are terrible offensively. They're averaging 62 points per game.
Yeah.
10 and 16 overall. This is not a Notre Dame team that should come in and win.
Right.
Right. Yep.
We know how this goes.
Yeah.
We know how this goes. So let's not be surprised on Monday if we're talking about how Jim Boeheim Day was ruined by an upset win on Jim Boeheim Day at home at the Dome.
For all these alums coming in, or I shouldn't say alums because just former Syracuse players. What are they doing from like noon to every?
Oh my God. It's a party, man.
Oh my gosh.
Absolute party. That'll be a lot of fun, and we appreciate Mike coming in to kind of set the table for us on that tomorrow afternoon at the Dome. Syracuse hosting Notre Dame. Break on the way. Some takes on tap next in the sports bar.
Yeah, if you thought you were tired about hearing about the baseball uniforms, okay. I think we finally crossed the line here with this. Also, which team is going to trade up in the NFL draft? I'm going to give you my logic. There's a team in our area that does have a lot of fans to, a good fan base here. So I'll give you my take, and you can roll the tape, Mike.
Gino, you mentioned it, earlier this week. Yeah, I think you mentioned it the last time we had Catalana on with us. This new version of you, Gino, the Mets fan. It's easy. It's chill. You're taking everything in stride.
Everything's fine.
But I'm a little bit nervous that this new version of you, this version of Gino, the Mets fan, maybe some news is falling through the cracks as far as Mets news. I want to make sure that we're giving that news to Mets fans who are regulars in the sports bar. We'll do some of that here with I'll Drink to That next, and I've got a non-sports take as well. I felt an immense amount of guilt this morning while I was making breakfast, and I'll explain something that I think we all could do a little bit more of in our day-to-day lives, our day-to-day routines. We'll get to that and more next with I'll Drink to That, some takes on tap, and your phone calls as well at 585-866 4FAN 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country.
Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester. Sports update.
Bills catch a little bit of a break as NFL teams have been told that the salary cap now will go up to $255 million. That's about $13 million more. Combine beginning on Monday. Chris Brown says number 17 can help out too.
And with the new larger salary cap of $255.4, you can erase almost half of what the Bills are staring at right now just by restructuring Josh's contract going forward. So that is certainly good news.
Hockey night tonight in the Flower City. You've got your choice here. The Amerks hosting Belleville. Don Stevens will have your call at 7 o'clock. Rory Fitzpatrick going into the Amerks Hall of Fame tonight. Sabres are in Columbus. Sabres hockey tonight can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. The RIT men, they are the regular season champions of Atlantic hockey. Tonight's the front end of the home and home as they're taking on Canisius. Gene Battaglia and the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
$255.4 million per club will be the salary cap.
And the Chiefs are signing punter Matt Ariza.
Mike Danger.
We need a fast ferry.
Gene Battaglia.
Cheeseburger fat boy.
You are a cheeseburger fat boy.
Amerks Hockey.
Amerks Belleville, tonight at 7.
Undisputably, Rochester, going into the Amerks Hall of Fame. We welcome in Rory Fitzpatrick.
It'll be an emotional night, and from an athlete's perspective, I think just playing in the NHL is a huge accomplishment. But as just a person, I think my 4 kids are by far my biggest accomplishment.
It is a Sabres game day tonight in Columbus.
The MLB needs to fix these new uniforms before the season starts because of these see-through pants.
Some bats and balls to look at.
So the take is
be cool.
Kevin Durant is your favorite player who makes it hard to like him sometimes.
They allegedly called him the B word.
I am not retired.
I am N-O-T.
Pal.
Not retiring.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester.
I know we're going to talk about these uniforms. Spring training game right now between the Dodgers and Padres on here in the studio. We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. I'll drink to that with some takes on tap. If you're a casual fan and you were just watching the game and you saw the Dodgers wearing their white pants today, and when they're in the field, they're wearing their ball caps, but it's not the traditional LA logo.
No.
It's the D logo from the Dodgers. So would you, as a casual fan, watch this game and say that team is the Big D's? The LA Big D's?
The LA Big D's. Yeah, that's the you have to merch, Danger. You got to sell some merch.
I guess.
Come up with special spring training camps.
I guess. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
When will the NFL be like, we should do that too for training camp and whatever?
Oh, if there's money to be made, the NFL will find a way to make it. We'll talk about the salary cap going up here shortly. But first, some takes on tap.
Yeah, it is Combine, right? Coming up on Monday, which means, hey, let's talk about all these scenarios. And also, like the biggest scenario, we're going to talk to David Howell. He is from 670 The Score. It's coming up in the 5 o'clock hour to figure out what the Bears are doing. But if I had to plant my flag right now, which team will trade up for a quarterback? Danger doesn't have to be number 1. Maybe they go to 2, Washington, maybe to 3 to number with New England. If I'm planting my flag right here, which team is the most likely to trade up? The team right now, you would say they don't need a quarterback. Oh, no, they do. It's the New York Giants. Roll the tape, Mike Danger. The New York Giants will trade up for a quarterback. But, Gene, they have Daniel Jones. They gave him some money. So what? Look, head coach Brian Daboll and GM Joe Shane, they are in survival mode. And the best way to do that is hit the reset button with a new quarterback. You don't want to blow up the whole thing and have the new quarterback go through a whole new system in year number 2. That way, the Bill Belichick debate, that'll fade away a little bit. But don't worry, Danger. You can still prepay me now on that bet that Belichick will be in the league.
All right, I got a couple of thoughts here. One, the Giants have 7 picks. Do they have enough to trade up if they need to trade up?
What would it take to go from 6 to 3? I would just think next year's number 1. If you like the quarterback, if you like Daniels, let's say.
Well, the only problem I have with it, and I'm not going to say that Daniel Jones is the solution, but their actions say differently. Yes, you could walk away from Daniel Jones after you gave him the deal that you gave him just last offseason, but the dude didn't play last year because he was injured. He wasn't good when he played, but he was injured. And now you've got another season where you're hoping he will live up to the price tag. I think they have to give him another year before they can pull the trigger, because if they were out on Daniel Jones, they should have been out on Daniel Jones going into last year when they had the chance to move on. They didn't.
They didn't, partly because they didn't have the collateral maybe to move up and get the... It's a rare instance. They whiffed on this before, meaning Saquon Barkley. Giant fans don't talk about this. You could have Josh Allen.
Yeah. No, the Saquon pick is the final straw, and that is the closing argument, and David Gettleman doesn't know what he's doing as an NFL GM, or the game has passed him by, because that pick sets him back, right? As exciting a player as he is.
Will we ever have a running back go top 2 again? No. Hard for me to imagine.
Yeah. The other part of this is, and I've got, a little bit of clarity on what Belichick is going to be doing this season. I feel pretty good. I actually feel like Steve Belichick, his son, is making me just a little thirsty here for a box of Pinot Noir, a box wine bet that Bill Belichick will or will not be coaching in the NFL in 2025. Steve Belichick telling Chris Long on his podcast that his dad is moving forward and turning the page. His quote, he's definitely pursuing some other stuff, whether it's TV or maybe a regular on the Green Light, that's Long's podcast, or whatever it may be. No talk there of coaching. Pursuing some other stuff.
Well, yeah, he's going to do some other things, and I would expect him to be in TV. Why? Because he can show how smart and witty, and there will be an owner looking at that and saying, gosh, he's the greatest of all time, and he's available. We need to bring him in. You mean to tell me the New York Jets can't right or wrong, and he would actually go back to the Jets?
He's not going to the Jets. He's not going to the Jets. He didn't go to the Jets then. He won't go to the Jets now. Come on, stop. Now you're desperate. Now you desperately want that box of wine, and you're not going to get it, pal. He won't be coaching. He's done. And if you see him on the TV, great. But I still win the bet.
What if I say it would help my marriage out a lot if you just prepaid the bet and I said, honey, look, you have to... No?
No. I think the executive producer knows. She knows what's up. And by the way, Gino, if we have a moment here during I'll Drink to That, I'm just going to say it. I like this version of Gino, the Mets fan. You're easy, you're chill, you're taking everything in stride. You had the Sengai injury that could have made you very upset.
It's February. I am going to be chill in April and May and June.
Not overreacting to anything.
Nope.
It's nice, but I do have a concern that you listening, the Sports Bar regular, who may also be a Mets fan, well, now you may not be getting your Mets updates in as timely a fashion because Gene is always on top of it, but he's kind of relaxing here a little bit in his Mets fandom. And it's with that in mind that I wanted to share today at Mets camp, they had Carlos Beltran in as a special assistant. Did you see this, Gene?
I did not. So Carlos Beltran coming in, putting on the hat, working out with
it was kind of cool to see. The Mets showing here that they can't bring in just anyone to teach the team how not to swing at strike 3. They bring in the best, Gene.
Meet the Mets. It was uncalled for. 2006 is a sore spot for any Met fan. I remember this. Runners on base. It's the bottom of the 9th, and you have Carlos Beltran, your star player, up. Looking at strike 1, looking at strike 2, and we're out. Boom. Called strike 3.
Swing the bat, you coward.
I turned the TV off immediately. That's it. We're done. Mets did not go to the World Series. How did you even know, dude? They have
a commitment to excellence, and they're not just going to bring in just anybody to show you how not to swing at strike 3. They're bringing in the best, the GOAT.
Remember, he was going to be the manager. I thought you were going to go down that road, until, he might have been involved in a cheating scandal, whatever. They didn't do their due diligence.
Let's just say, Gino, I have a lot of friends who are Mets fans, and I might not be as close to the franchise as you or as they are, but I can appreciate you would call it the gallows humor, right? That goes with being a Mets fan. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to share that with Gene. New, easy, chilled, easy, laid back, easygoing Gene, the Mets fan.
You'd see. You don't like this, do you? You want me to explode here in the month of February?
Don't worry,
you want me to run my mouth?
You don't have to say anything. I'll do enough talking for both of us.
When Catalana comes on Monday, I'm not going to bring up baseball whatsoever. He's in Indianapolis. We're going to talk
football.
We're going to talk football.
That's good.
But I know you. You are somehow going to talk about the Phillies. You're going to set him up, and I'm just going to sit back, and I'm not going to take any of your bait.
Oh, we'll
just
see.
So you know.
We'll see. We'll see if they bring in another legend like Carlos Beltran into camp. We got to continue to give you the news as it happens.
Was it last year or 2 years ago? And now I'm getting confused, but there was one spring training. You know this, where they actually practiced the celebration of winning the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago.
Like everybody running out to the pitcher's mound, jumping up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you do that? Why?
Yeah, baseball. Look, we love it. It's something else, and this season it looks literally looks like it's going to be different.
As much as Rob Manfred Danger says, there's nothing to see here. We've tested these new uniforms, and fans will love them and play. Look, they really do have a problem.
Yep.
And I'm here to warn you. Seriously, this is not a joke, because I'm all for the shaming of Major League Baseball. I'm all for shaming Rob Manfred. But to look at these uniforms, look at the bad spacing, the small lettering. These pants are see-through, and no one warned me when I clicked on.
I tried to warn you yesterday.
I didn't know what I was clicking on. I'm warning you. You didn't tell me exactly, so I'm telling you. Do not look at the picture of Giants infielder Casey Schmidt. I never even heard of Casey Schmidt. It was just like, hey, another uniform mishap. And then I turned,
Franks and beans.
You click on it, and now I'm worried. Your IT department may flag you.
Yeah.
Like, you see the family jewel sitting right there.
Franks and beans. Don't need it.
Look, that's enough. We don't need that. Major League Baseball, players, fans, Casey, do this. File the paperwork now. Hostile work environment. You're being forced to wear something that could show your junk. Please, someone sue baseball.
Well, I went to watch a baseball game the other day, and I was sitting down in my easy chair, and I turned it on, and it was the Giants, and they were playing, and it was Casey Schmidt. He was in the dugout, and my eyes started burning, and I went to go get the bleach, and the bleach did nothing to my eyes, so I would like to sue Major League Baseball for looking at Casey Schmidt's Franks and Beans. I don't need to see that. It hurt my eyes. I fell down the stairs, and my shoes fell off. I broke my glasses, and now I'm suing everybody for punitive damages. They have to fix these uniforms. Thank you.
Have a non-sports take today.
For the record, if you're new to the show, Mike Danger insists he is not one of the jerky boys.
You set it up. You wanted Saul to come in and
look. It's hostile work environment. Isn't that like the definition of it?
Well, it's punitive damages. It's hostile work environment. I was looking at my computer, and I saw the picture, and I was just looking to get the score of the Giants game, and then all of a sudden I saw a unit I didn't need to see from Casey Schmidt. And the bleach, they told me to bleach my eyes. It did nothing.
Would you actually ask Casey Schmidt there, Saul, to be in a class action lawsuit?
Yes, he should sue the Major League Baseball. He should sue Bill Belichick. He should sue everybody.
Bill Belichick? What
Yes,
does he have to do
everybody.
with this?
Because he wants a box of wine for next year, Gene.
Something hit me this morning while I was fixing up a little breakfast sandwich for myself, Gino.
Okay.
Go to the cupboard. And I get hit with a wave of guilt. I looked at the pile of plates sitting there in the cupboard, and I felt sympathy. Sympathy for the bottom plate, Gino. I mean, the guy is up with his lunch pail every day, just shows up, never sees any action. Been in the lineup since 2005. He's a veteran presence in the cupboard. Saw some reps Thanksgiving of 2014, but that's really about it. Never experienced lamb chops and caprese salad for my daughter's 12th birthday. Didn't come out for pulled pork sandwiches at the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago, just sitting there like a good teammate, waiting for his moment to shine. And now there's an added benefit here to giving bottom plate some playing time this weekend. The overall cabinet chemistry improves. Coffee mug just looks down and gives that Grizzly Adams approval nod. You know what I'm talking about? It's great for kitchen morale. Rest of the squad is wondering who's next. Could it be plastic tumbler getting a call? Maybe Nalgene water bottle? Bottom bowl? Let's get the bottom plate some playing time this weekend, boys.
So I'm going to call BS on you. Like, you just have plates and nothing else? Because in our home, I was thinking about this. We have plates, and then we put some bowls on. You don't pull from the bottom plate because you don't want the bowls to come off. I always take from the bottom. Does that make me weird?
Okay, we're talking about cabinet makeup here. Yeah. Team makeup. Team makeup is set up like this in my cabinet. Plates, big plates. Next to the big plates, small plates. Next to the small plates, bowls.
Oh, you have ample space there. You're not putting anything on top of the big plates or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
Second shelf, more bowls, more plastic bowls, and then coffee mugs over in the other cabinet, tumblers in the other cabinet, drinkware in the other cabinet. But the overall kitchen chemistry just gets into it. When you can pull somebody that doesn't normally get that starting nod, give them some play, everybody feels good about themselves. So I'm saying bottom plate gets some playing time this weekend. And as the weather gets warmer, maybe you're going past plastic tumbler, down the road here. Keep your drinks cool. You haven't been using it maybe back of the shelf. You got that water bottle that's just been sitting there collecting dust. Give it a good washing. Make sure it's prepped, ready for the reps. Just improve overall kitchen morale. Bottom plate. Big bottom plate guy here.
Or use the mug you haven't used all year or something like that.
Right. I got a dented up, old beat up stainless steel coffee mug that I used for years. The veteran. Just hanging on. I appreciate it. You know what it is? It's the LeBron James in my cabinet. I appreciate it, but it hasn't seen a lot of playing time. If I give it some playing time, everybody's going to love it. Everybody's going to appreciate it just that much more. Yeah, this is all about kitchen chemistry here. We're talking cabinet morale. Go with the bottom plate this weekend, boys.
Xavier Howard's going to be cut by the Dolphins at the start of the league year.
Oh, that's some... I guess that would count as breaking news. Yeah.
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
No, the NFL does have a salary cap. We can dive into that next in the sports bar. We'll have David Hoff from Mully & Hoff, 670 The Score in Chicago, joining us during happy hour. We'll talk a little bit more about what the Bears might do with that number 1 overall pick, or if they stick with Justin Fields. We'll get into that as well. We have other news and notes from around the NFL to get to, including that Howard news that you just broke. We'll take a break here, and we'll come back with more next. And we have time for your phone calls if you'd like to join us at 866-4326. 585-866-4FAN.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger. Sports Update.
NFL teams have been told that the salary cap is going to go up to $255 million. Chris Brown on One Bills Live lays out what's next for Buffalo.
For the Bills now, with this new cap of 255.4, they're anywhere from like 37 to 42 million over instead of 50 to 55 million over. So the number is better, because you could argue $13 million, what is that? Well, depending on how much you're willing to pay people, that could be as many as 3 players.
The Combine will begin on Monday. Hockey tonight, you got a choice in the Flower City. The Amherst once again taking on Belleville. Don Stevens will have your call beginning at 7. Sabres are in Columbus. Sabres hockey tonight can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. The RIT men, regular season champions of Atlantic hockey, they're home tonight. It's the front end of the home and home against Canisius. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, the NFL salary cap has been set. We'll talk about what it means for the Buffalo Bills and other teams. We've got a couple of moves here from the Miami Dolphins today. We've also got some of your tweets. We're our regulars reaching out to us. It's Friday afternoon. We're all a little bit loose, getting ready for the sports weekend. At the Fan Rochester on Elon's Twitter. That's X. Pete, we've lifted the ban. It's been 2 weeks, right? I think it's been at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's cool.
Our official pollster. It's not the LBJ. The bottom plate is the Matt Barkley of the cabinet, or Mike White for me. I think you misunderstood what I was saying here, Peter. That to me, the bottom plate isn't... You're right. The bottom plate is like a Mike White. It just sits there. It's part of the team. It doesn't really do anything. The LBJ for me is the stainless steel, dented up, beat up old coffee mug that I used every day ritually for years that I haven't used in a long time. That's at the back of the cabinet now. That would be the LBJ that when it comes out, you're like, oh, that is the mug. I appreciate that mug. I appreciate its service, and I will give it another shot.
Who's the bottom plate on the Buffalo Bills? Ryan Bates, right? Like you paid him money. He's there. He's reliable. Didn't need him.
Bottom plate of the Buffalo Bills. Reliable. Always there. You know who it was last season? I think it might have been Dodson last season. Dodson could have been like the bottom plate. Always there. Never really got considered as starter, and then he gets the shot, and he does pretty well as a starter when you call upon him. Yeah. Give the bottom plate some love this weekend.
Danger, I know we're going to talk about the NFL here in the salary cap.
Yeah.
Guys, just breaking news here. This is from the NCAA. And I've seen this come over from multiple reporters. This one from Amanda Kristovich. She writes for Front Office Sports. It's the NCAA's worst nightmare. A federal judge has granted a preliminary injunction against the Tennessee NIL case, meaning the NCAA cannot enforce any NIL restriction or rules until this lawsuit is settled or goes to trial.
All right.
It's the Wild West. Everybody pay anybody. Nobody can get punished here.
Right. Well, we knew this day was coming, right?
Yeah.
This is a step in that direction where the feds get involved, and there'll be regulation, and there'll be rules, and get it while you can get it. Get after it now while you can. I think it's adorable that the NCAA tries to step in and
we're going to punish you.
Yeah.
Who did they punish this year? Was it Florida State? They nicked somebody for NIL. Like, get out of here with that.
Right. Even when they punished Michigan, when they punished Harbaugh, it's like, yeah, Harbaugh very well could have cheated, but it's like you're trying to flex your muscle and you don't really have any muscle left to flex. You're just kind of there. And you saw the pushback from other people, and they actually can make a case like the NCAA doesn't mean what it used to mean. We don't even know why it exists anymore. Why does it exist? And maybe that's where this is headed as well. It's like, yeah, this institution doesn't need to exist anymore. It can go bye-bye.
Or the Power 5 schools finally break off. You can't even call Power 5. What is the Pac-12? You get what I'm saying. Break off, or football. Break off, do your thing, and the NCAA can take care of all the non-revenue sports.
Yeah, along those lines. I mean, if you were curious about how good business is, how good the football business is, and we're not talking college, we're talking about the NFL. Their salary cap exploded today. There was word earlier this week that it could be somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 million, which would have been up from what I think a lot of people were projecting. The real number is $255.4 million, which is up 13.6% year to year.
Okay, stop right there. Name me businesses. I'm not talking about a startup that in year 3 to year 4. Hey, the growth 13% year over year.
If you're a business, I mean, I know that this isn't their revenue. This is their salary cap, so it's not comparing apples to apples. The revenue is a different story, and we'll get that number, and I'm sure you'll see
it's actually more than 13%.
Double-digit growth there as well. But if you're a business, you can get double-digit growth year over year. I think you're doing pretty good. I think you're feeling pretty good about yourself. What led to this? Well, they're finally shed of all of the debts and everything that happened with the pandemic, everything that kind of set them backwards through COVID is behind them, and media deals. Their new media deals have absolutely paved the way for this kind of growth. So if you're a fan who doesn't like that you have to pay Peacock or Amazon this upcoming postseason to watch a playoff game.
You're proud of the problem there.
Understand that what you're doing by paying for it is you're helping pay these teams' salaries. The salary cap goes up partially because of the, $150 million, I want to say, that Amazon is going to pony up for a 2024 postseason game, wildcard round game. So that's big news for the NFL. And now, obviously, teams can start to offer current players set to become free agents what they unofficially, of course, are tampering. But Tamperfest happens next week in Indianapolis.
Actually, it's the Combine, they call it.
Oh, well, you'll hear of teams starting to have these conversations with pending free agents, and you can actually have those conversations, right? If you're an outgoing free agent, if the Bucs want to talk to Baker Mayfield, which they're doing, they can.
They can.
He's an outgoing free agent. They'd like to keep him, so those talks have begun, and those talks will continue through next week when the Bucs GM meets with Mayfield's agent at the Combine. But if a deal doesn't get done, obviously then Mayfield hits free agency, and another team can come in and offer him more, and the carousel starts to spin.
Yeah, and next week is the week where majority of decision makers are going to be there. We know McVay doesn't. I saw that Mike McCarthy from Dallas is not going to be at the Combine, but we know that Sean McDermott, because he's on the competition committee and because he always goes, he's going to be speaking on Monday. Not sure what time on Monday. And as we discussed yesterday, my expectations for him actually telling us good things, newsworthy things, they're pretty low. Brandon Beane's scheduled to talk on Tuesday.
If there's one guy on the Bills roster that today's news helps in terms of your ability to maybe retain him,
Daquan Jones. I'm going to go with somebody short term, meaning 2 to 3 year sort of deal that north of 30, you want them back. They're going to be a starter. He fits the bill. I think A.J. Epineza, he's a big winner today, and I think that he's going to get a big offer that the Bills may not be able to match. So if you had to say which guy could the Bills actually kind of retain, I'm gonna choose Jones on my board.
I'm going to go Epineza. And I think that other teams might look at him and say, oh, there's something there. There might be some value there. But Epineza, to me, has the profile of Matt Milano. We all assumed Matt Milano was going to leave, right? We liked what we saw out of Matt Milano in his rookie deal, and he's proven to be, invaluable to that defense. Epineza could look around and find that the grass may not be greener on the other side, and can continue to be a force. He made a lot of big plays this season, and I think if you get him more time on the field, you give him more experience, you let him get bigger again this offseason, I feel like you can maybe give him a little bit more to convince him to stay.
Well, this is his contract to cash in on. There's a big difference between the two. Daquan Jones, he's 32 now.
Yeah.
Epineza's 25.
I like the investment in youth over age as well.
Right. And if you are a GM, pitching somebody that for big money that's 32, I don't know if the GM's going to listen. Well, here's where I'm going with this. You could imagine there's going to be defensive coordinators, right? They're going to be like, hey, can we go get this guy? I trust this guy. I worked with this guy before. There's not one, but there are two defensive coordinators in this league that know these guys. One is up in Seattle. That's Leslie Frazier. You can give him credit. And then certainly go to your Bears there, Danger. They brought in a linebacker last year in Edmonds. Now they bring in their defensive coordinator. Not going to call plays. Doesn't really matter. But if Eric Washington goes to Ryan Poles and says, you know what, if we could bring in an A.J. Epineza because look what I did with him, roll the tape here from the Washington game last year, and he was in a rotation. He'd be perfect for our rotation. Oh, no, by the way, he's only 25. So I would think that if you kind of go that route, that it's kind of coming from bottom up, meaning coach asking GM, hey, this is a guy I trust for our system. The GM could object to Daquan Jones saying, dude, he's 32. I'm sorry. We're not going to invest in that.
Who's your second-round pick? Bill's free agent that this helps, that you think they can maybe retain because of today's news? I've got a player in mind.
Okay, you go first.
Oh, we're snake drafting this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taylor Rapp, when he did play, it took a sec, but when he came on. He played well down the stretch. He's still young. Look, he was 1.77 million last year. No, I'm sorry, I'm reading. Yep, that's right, 1.77 million last year. And if he's looking to make a little bit more, maybe on like a 2 or 3 year deal, yeah, I could see them sticking around with Taylor, keeping Taylor Rapp around another year.
I'm going to go to a guy that, because he's not going to be a starter, was a starter this year, but not projected to be a starter next year. 26 years old. What's the market for Terrell Dodson?
I thought you were going to go in a different direction.
Yeah, so Dodson.
That's a surprising one to me. Okay.
Yeah, so Dodson, because you have Dorian Williams, but are we really sold on Dorian Williams? I mean, the depth on the team would be much better with Dotson on it. But is Dotson going to get the big dollar offer there? Maybe. But if he didn't, like if all things are equal, the Bills could offer him a little bit of
just
money.
Over $2 million last year. I think Dotson becomes your special teams ace. You keep him around, and he becomes that guy. He takes over the Matakevich role.
Oh my gosh, he'd be like better than Matakevich.
For sure.
Yeah.
Upgrade. The other guy I was going to mention, and I'm kind of torn on this one, but defensive tackles don't grow on trees. It's hard to find these guys. And a guy that's been with the team, that Tim Settle has been kind of polarizing. $4.5 million last year. I don't know if he's getting much more than that on the open market. As part of that rotation. Yeah, maybe they bring somebody like that back. You have that flexibility now. You can at least explore that option. And I'm only talking about defensive-minded guys, defensive players here, because I feel like that's what they want to shore up more than anything in free agency before you get to the draft. And then in the draft, if you want to add pieces, you add pieces.
Okay, so flip it here. Which guy do you think this helps today? I'm not going to go with Gabe Davis, although you could certainly say that. The cap, by the way, increasing, if you're just kind of tuning in, $255 million, and this is going to work in two directions. And where I was saying teams wouldn't pony up Danger for a guy north of 30, but here's your pop quiz, everybody. Who led the Buffalo Bills in sacks last season? The answer with
Leonard
10
Floyd.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Leonard Floyd, locker room cleanout day, pretty much said, hey, I'm going to go to where the money is. And you can't fault him that way. Like, these careers are very, very short. So if there's more money out there and more opportunity for a team that's pressed up against it, I would be stunned if the Buffalo Bills brought back Leonard Floyd. Now, mind you, Leonard Floyd was sitting out there until the month of June, and that was a great June signing. But I'm sure he's going to get offers coming up here in legal tampering.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe teams just wait once again to try and drive that price down. The Bills got him for $7 million last year.
Wow.
Value. And that's what you have to do when you're cap strapped as the Bills are, when you don't have that quarterback on his rookie deal anymore, and you're kind of dealing with that. You brought up Davis. Davis is gone, right? Like we know that the Bills aren't going to be able to afford him, that there is going to be a team. There has to be a team out there that'll look at Davis and see the potential and know that he's still young and believe that we can get that guy and he can be our one, or a really nice compliment. Are you ready for Gabe Davis in New England? A lot of cap space. A lot of cap space.
Yeah, they do. That shouldn't scare anybody.
I'm more scared about the punt god being in Kansas City than I would be about Gabe Davis being in New England.
See, sometimes I get off the air and you come up with the line after, and it doesn't help when you come up with the line after. At 6:05.
This is the George Costanza in you.
Okay, so
the jerk store called. They needed more of you.
Okay, so repeat that line, Mike Danger. You just said you're more worried
about the punt god being in Kansas City.
If the punt god in Kansas City appears on the field, then you know what? The Bills just stopped Patrick Mahomes. Yay! He's the punter. I want to see him many, many times coming up in Buffalo. Yeah. He's a freaking punter.
I know. And when he tilts the field and the Bills are starting.
And the church store just called.
Every drive starts inside the 5-yard line, and you got to try and dig out of that hole because the punt god.
Oh, because the Chiefs play field position all the time. Yeah, they don't care about. You got that all wrong. That's our coach. They don't care about complimentary football.
Well, hey, I'm kind of pissed off about that. I don't like that at all. I hated that yesterday. That really upset me.
Part of it is because he was a Bill, right?
That's all of it. It's all of it. The only reason why I care is because he was a Bill. Like the promise of the punt god was unfulfilled.
No, but why from Kansas City's point? Like they're going over the reasons. Oh yeah, it could save a little money. He's good. Yeah, let's stick it to the Bills.
Of course. Of course. Makes a lot of sense for both parties, both the Chiefs and Ariza. Probably thinking, when we get the chance to meet the Bills, it's personal. It's going to be personal. We'll take a break here and come back. We've got happy hour coming up. We're going to talk with David Haugh of Mully and Haugh morning show at 670 The Score in Chicago. The Bears seemingly hold all the cards here to April's draft. What can we expect here with Tampa Fest happening in Indianapolis next week? And what do the Bears have planned for quarterback? It feels like that's the first domino that needs to fall for every other domino to fall in this offseason. We'll get to that here in a little bit. And we have time for your calls as well at 866-4326. That's 866-4FAN. This hour of the Sports Bar brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. Fresh, human-grade dog food delivered right to your door.
You're listening to the
Happy hour right around the corner. We'll check in with David Haw of Mully & Haw. Morning show there at 670 The Score in Chicago. We'll talk some NFL draft and Justin Fields, the first domino that needs to fall here in the NFL offseason with the Combine getting underway in Indianapolis on Monday. Your calls are welcome at 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
Yeah, as there is one hockey note here, Danger. I'll just kind of tell the story here. And you could say it's a story of be careful what you post online, and I guess that's true on the surface, but this goes way deeper than that. So, player I'm not familiar with, his name is Adam Ruzicka. He plays for the Arizona Coyotes. And I should kind of move this to the past tense as the Coyotes are prepared to cut him now. He posts something on Insta, and in this photo, there's a credit card and some white powder, and it's kind of been alleged that it's some cocaine. That is, for whatever reason, Adam Ruzicka is posting out there, and that the Coyotes are just simply terminating his contract right now.
Sure.
The NHLPA has 60 days here to kind of respond.
Nothing about that is shocking to me. To me, the shocking thing about this or any story in the NHL having to do with players and substance abuse is just how little of a drug policy the NHL has. The idea that they just won't test, they won't do any of that. I'm not so well versed in it that do they test? If they do test and the test comes back positive, you have an illegal substance, you don't get suspended. They can basically tell you, hey, you need help, go to rehab or take time off or whatever you need. Mm-hmm. And the player can say then, no, I'm good. I'm going to keep playing. There is no real drug policy, I guess is what I'm saying.
Correct.
In the NHL.
Yeah.
And I watch enough hockey to kind of wonder aloud how many of these guys need that or see that as an edge, as a way to get up, as a way to get after it, that they can't get on the ice without a couple of nose beers before. Dude, it's a wild league, and this is something that nobody really talks about in the NHL.
No, I thought there would be this big moment of, okay, what are we doing here? And this was back in 2020, right before the pandemic hits, where there was a defenseman for St. Louis, Jay Bouwmeester.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just normal that your heart is going to stop on the bench and they have to cancel the game because, oh my gosh, we just had a player die and he pulled through. But how did that happen?
Was that a myocarditis thing like we had with DeMar Hamlin?
Don't know.
Because it didn't get that kind of publicity. It didn't seem like it was that kind of thing.
No, it's just from what I read, cardiac episode is how they talked about that.
I know that all of these guys, any professional athlete, they are professional athletes because they're wired differently and they're all looking for an edge. They all want a competitive edge. And sometimes they will use substances to try and gain that competitive edge. Even if it harms them short term, long term, it doesn't matter. They don't know. They don't know any other way. And in the NHL, I wouldn't be surprised. If they ever did a study and the numbers came out and they disclosed, we'll never know, but if the number to me, I would imagine 3/4 of the league probably into substance abuse. Three-quarters of the players in the league.
You and I hear stories, but the reason why we can't go on the air with the stories is because we don't want to get sued. So
we can't allege anything. We can't say, this player uses cocaine. We have this instance in Phoenix where it sure looks like he did, and it sure looks like the team doesn't appreciate that, so they're going to move on from him.
But you really, what the league needs is some investigative journalist to just kind of come in and be like, okay, what is going on? Or some player to put their hand up in the air and say, hey, because guess what's going to happen? Someone will die. Gene, you're being dramatic. Really? Like baseball had this problem with steroids and other things, and Ken Caminiti died. He was an MVP in this league. So, yeah, that hockey is not years, they're decades behind these other sports right now.
This is Donald Fear, who's the players' union, right?
Right.
And he was the Major League Baseball players' union rep during...
No coincidence there whatsoever.
During the steroid era.
Yeah,
the players
this is something that the players wanted. They didn't want to be bothered with this. They want to be able to control what they put into their bodies and not have to worry about it. But you're not completely clear from ramifications. There was a player for Washington, I want to say, too, one of the Russian kids a few years ago, same kind of thing. Photo surfaced. He was at a party or at a hotel room, and there's a mountain of cocaine in one of the pictures. That it's just clear as day. And they didn't move on from him. I don't know if anybody stepped in or if there was any sort of penalty for it. I'm trying to remember which. I don't want to say the wrong name and get myself in trouble. But the point is that I think it's more widespread than anybody will ever report or anybody will ever say, that most of these guys are probably using something illicit every time they hit the ice.
Well, what changed in baseball, actually, fear of leaving. But it was the players. Like, you want to play clean, and it's tough. Like, how can I compete and keep a roster spot or hit that bonus if I'm going against guys that are unclean? And eventually, hey, we need to kind of police our own. And sure, I'm not naive. Some of it still goes on in every sport. But the point is, it's not as disgusting as it was in baseball. And I'm just wondering, hockey players, are you so dumb you don't realize what's going on here? Like, you're professional hockey? Like, honestly, like you should not be using cocaine. It should be a basic thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think they are. I think they are that dumb. I think they just realize, like, hey, and look, I can't put myself in their shoes because I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not a professional hockey player. I remember playing as a kid, and if you played youth hockey, you might remember similar type stories. But I just remember there was always it always felt like the best players that were on any of the teams that I played on were the guys that were getting after it off the ice in some way, shape, or form. Whatever the drug of choice was, they were never clean. They were never clean, yet they showed up at the rink and they had this incredible skill. I don't know that skill goes away if they're clean, or if that's just the only way they know how to play, and it gives them an edge or a perceived edge. But the NHL, until they change their drug policy, which isn't really even a drug policy, you're right. It probably is going to take somebody, another player collapsing on the ice, having their heart explode because they're using cocaine or whatever their drug of choice may be. I think that number is high. I think that the majority of the players in the NHL are probably doing something with an illegal substance.
Well, and then, I don't know, maybe there's, like, many rings get busted at some point. Like in baseball, you had this big scandal in the 80s. Like, wait a second, you have all these players I know of that are using cocaine. It was a big deal. So, I don't know. There's a lot of problems in the world. Professional athletes using drugs, not one of them. Apparently.
Yeah, no, apparently. And the NHL obviously doesn't want anybody covering the league. I mean, there's so many guys that cover the league north of the border that I'm sure have access, or if we sat down with any of the insiders, NHL insiders north of the border, you don't think that they would have tons and tons of stories that they could share that they can't share on the record, but off the record? Oh, let me tell you about this organization. Let me tell you about this player. Yeah. Let me tell you why this player is the way he is. Or this player who came into an organization and influenced other players, and now you've got a player within an organization who's influenced other players, and now you've got a locker room full of guys that are on the junk. I feel like that could be fairly common in the NHL. I don't feel like you have to look very far to find that the instances of that happening in the NHL, given that they don't have a true drug policy. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to be safe if you're found using, or if you're like this guy, if you're caught with a incriminating photo, you move on. But I guarantee,
so, like, the way
if he's worth his weight, another team will sign him.
So let's see if I get this right. Like, basically, the policy is, hey, we saw you with this. We'd like you to go to rehab. No. Okay, we were caught.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much
that's it. Yeah.
I'm not so well versed on it that I don't know how often, if they do any testing at all. But if they were to do testing and the test would come back, oh, we found this substance, you should get help. The player can say, yeah, you found that substance, so what? I'm not going to go to rehab. I'm not going to clean it. Some players might do it on their own. Like, it's not uncommon to see players take extended periods of time off. You want to wonder what that's about. I think that there's probably different layers to every long-term absence that you hear about from an NHL player beyond just what the big finger quotes here injury might be as they're taking their time off. Happy hour is next in the sports bar. We've got Amherst hockey tonight as Belleville in town once again for tonight's matchup at Blue Cross Arena. The NFL salary cap has ballooned over 13% year over year. And we'll talk a little bit about the Combine as it gets underway on Monday and the salary cap increase. What does that mean for the Combine and the negotiations that'll start to happen? And the team that right now seems like they hold all the cards in terms of how this offseason progresses is the Chicago Bears. David Haw of Mully & Haw, 670 The Score in Chicago, is going to stop by during happy hour as well, and we'll take his pulse on everything happening around Justin Fields, around our guy, Ryan Poles, the pride of Section 5, and what's going on with the Chicago Bears and that number one overall pick. We'll get a round of shots coming up as well. You can join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's me, Mike Danger, for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. Because right now, if you're a new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. 21 plus and physically present in New York. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Some relief here for NFL teams up against the cap. It's going to go up to $255 million. It helps the Bills a little bit to get compliant. Chris Brown says number 17 can help out too.
And with the new larger salary cap of $255.4, you can erase almost half of what the Bills are staring at right now just by restructuring Josh's contract going forward. So that is certainly good news.
The Combine begins on Monday. Hockey tonight in the Flower City. You have your choice. The Amerks once again hosting Belleville as Rory Fitzpatrick goes into the Amerks Hall of Fame. Don Stevens will have your call beginning at 7 o'clock here on The Fan. The Sabres are in Columbus. Sabres hockey tonight can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. The RD men are home tonight. It's the front end of the home and home against Canisius. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
$255.4 million per club will be the salary cap.
And the Chiefs are signing punter Matt Ariza.
Mike Danger.
We need a fast ferry.
Gene Battaglia.
Cheeseburger fat boy.
You are a cheeseburger fat boy.
Amerks Hockey.
Amerks Belleville, tonight at 7.
Undisputably, Rochester, going into the Amerks Hall of Fame. We welcome in Rory Fitzpatrick.
It'll be an emotional night, and from an athlete's perspective, I think just playing in the NHL is a huge accomplishment. But as just a person, I think my 4 kids are by far my biggest accomplishment.
It is a Sabres game day tonight in Columbus.
The MLB needs to fix these new uniforms before the season starts because of these see-through pants.
Some bats and balls to look at.
So the take is
be cool.
Kevin Durant is your favorite player who makes it hard to like him sometimes.
They allegedly called him the B word.
I am not retired.
I am N-O-T.
Pal.
Not retiring.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us to kick off your sports weekend. We go to Chicago where, hey, look, we've got the NFL Scouting Combine starting on Monday. We learned today that the salary cap has ballooned 13% over last year's salary cap in the NFL, and it feels like the Bears are the team that is going to get the ball rolling here this offseason. So we welcome in David Haugh of Mully & Haugh. You can hear them on 670 The Score, our Odyssey Sports sister station here in the Odyssey app. Joining us in the Sports Bar. David, you know what? I know we've got a little bit of time with you, and I want to make as much use of that time as we can. The Justin Fields debate, the first overall pick debate, I'm sure you love, and you're just getting started having these conversations. You've probably been having them since the middle of last regular season.
Yes, it's been a constant source of speculation, and I think it really, I don't want to say it affected Justin Fields' play last season, but it certainly was in the backdrop each and every Sunday he took the field.
David, my quick question, if the Bears are going to move on from Fields, and you've talked to a lot of people, I mean, realistically, what is the haul? It's hard for me to imagine a team giving up a decent first-round pick.
I don't think Justin Fields would be worth a first-round pick. I think Justin Fields, at best, would be a second-round pick. He's an unproven quarterback after 3 years of starting. He has potential, but if you grade the flashes, you might give up a first-round pick. If you look at the totality of the body of work, you're more likely to think second or third. If the Bears go in asking for a second, I think that they probably people will offer a third. Maybe they'll compromise. I wouldn't get too enamored or hung up on the return for Justin Fields if I were Ryan Poles. I think you're facing a situation that it's a luxury, frankly. I've been describing it all off season as the Bears are in a situation that a lot of general managers and teams would envy. They have 2 decisions to make. One is good, the other one's better. They can win the division next year with Justin Fields if they were to choose to keep him and to trade the number 1 overall pick. But if you draft Caleb Williams and you trade Justin Fields, you're announcing that you're ready to win a Super Bowl. And that's the difference in the 2 quarterbacks, in my mind, the ceiling is just higher for Caleb Williams.
So, David, talk to us a little bit about what the fan base there in Chicago is thinking, because I know that there's I'm a Bears guy, so I know that the McCaskies are viewed as cheap. And if you move on from Justin Fields, is that sour a fan base at all? Because there are fans that probably want Fields to stick around, given that we've seen little glimpses of potential from him. And this is essentially the McCaskies saying, yeah, we don't want to pay $100 million to Justin Fields.
It's more than that. I think the cynicism is appropriate. I understand where you're coming from. It's earned after so many years if you're a Bears fan. I mean, you've lived through a lot of that, but I don't think it's related to this conversation, to be honest with you. I think it has nothing to do with money. There's a financial component. When you hit the reset after rookie contract, certainly there are advantages, but this is a football decision. And the football decision would be that Justin Fields fell short of expectations. There are a lot of things that were out of his control, but he's just not as good of a quarterback when you project out as Caleb Williams. So that said, it removes, I think, the finances and that stereotype from the equation. Now, the fan base, overwhelmingly, I think, behind Justin Fields. This is going to be a difficult one to pull off from a PR standpoint. Caleb Williams will be walking into a situation where he'll be wildly unpopular initially, or at least doubted. I don't want to say unpopular, but I would say questioned because of some of the unfair generalizations and inaccurate reporting, unproven, unconfirmed things about his past. So the fan base is squarely in Justin Fields' corner, but I think that if you are a Bears fan, you would agree with this assessment. Chicago isn't exactly collectively an expert on what a franchise quarterback looks like.
The question is, okay, it's great that you can go draft this quarterback, but it's got to be more to it. It's got to be a support system around. You got to have the head coach. And I just thought the way this was lining up in a year where you had all these candidates, including a guy who played for the Bears once upon a time. What are your thoughts on the Bears retaining Eberflus?
Well, I was as loud as anybody in Chicago hoping that they would make a run at Jim Harbaugh. I felt like that was the home run hire, and that would have been consistent with the lofty rhetoric that the new team president, Kevin Warren, brought to town about a year ago. I don't think the results matched the rhetoric. You embraced the status quo when he had an opportunity to swing for the fences. So that, to me, was disappointing. That said, I think Matt Eberflus is hanging his hat on, and they're believing in him, that this defense is potentially elite. And he's a big reason why. Maybe the biggest reason why when he took over play calling duties. So you have an elite defense, a defensive-minded head coach, and you do have, let's face it, you can look at it two ways. One, you're never going to win as defensive head coach in the NFL because you need the innovation and the offensive-minded play caller. Or you look at the Houston Texans, you look at the Buffalo Bills, and they do have defensive-minded head coaches, and they have young quarterbacks that they have won because of. And I think that's the model the Bears will lean into, and the example they will cite when saying we're going to do it the right way.
David Mully, you can hear him and his partner at 670 The Score in Chicago mornings inside the free-to-download Odyssey app, joining us here in the Sports Bar. I'm glad you brought up Kevin Warren because I think he's a part of this equation as well. And I know a lot of people will just view Kevin Warren as the guy that the team brought in to shop for a new stadium for the Bears. But then he made some statements last week about Justin Fields and basically gave Justin Fields a vote of confidence. Was that, do you think... Was that part of the plan? Is that Kevin Warren sticking his nose into personnel where he doesn't really belong?
My honest opinion is that it was clumsy because I think that all it did was confuse the issue. If you're trying to praise a quarterback who has earned it, because Justin Fields is a consummate pro, I don't think you did yourself any favors there. I don't think you bought yourself created any leverage. Everyone can see through that kind of thing. I think you would have been better off just essentially saying that, Justin Fields, what I just said, is a guy that's easy to support and easy to like, but he didn't have to go and say he was glad he was a Bear. I think he went a little bit too far. Kevin Warren tends to get a little carried away. He's verbose, he's eloquent, and sometimes he talks too much. So that was probably the latest example of him saying a little bit more than he wanted.
David, so if the Bears decide, all right, we're going to move Fields here, what is the timeline here? Because you have these free agent quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield's won a few playoff games. You have Cousins in Minnesota, guys who have better resumes. Is it better suited to make this move like as soon as next week, or are you waiting until draft night?
I would want to be first. I would want to anticipate get in front of the market. I would want to take no chances. If you have mentally moved on, and from a football standpoint, realize that you're better off with one of the quarterbacks you're going to draft, and namely Caleb Williams, then I don't think you want to dilly-dally and wait for the perfect trade. It likely will never come. I don't think keeping both guys is a feasible option. That's been floated, and I don't think it makes any sense. So I think you go to the Combine open for business. If you make a deal there, okay, but I think you have to make a deal before free agency begins and the start of the league year officially starts in early March, mid-March, and that's when you want to be able to give whatever team you're trading him to more clarity about their quarterback position, and also just begin the process of moving on and focusing and zeroing in on whatever rookie quarterback that you want. And like I said, if it's not Caleb Williams, there might be a riot in Chicago. I mean, if you trade Justin Fields and you don't draft Caleb Williams, I don't know what sense you're making from a football perspective.
All right, so that's exactly where I was going to go. And we like Ryan Poles. He's a Section 5 guy. He played his high school football down the street in Canandaigua here. So we're all kind of rooting for him to be a success. And I think a lot of us got excited when we saw the haul that the Bears got from the Panthers last year. Could you get a similar haul if you trade out of one? And is there a scenario that exists where you trade out of one, you still get a rookie quarterback that you like, and you move on from Justin Fields all simultaneously?
Now, see, that's outside the box thinking. I would say that would be option C, but I don't know that they've maybe ruled that out. You know, I kind of facetiously addressed that this morning by talking about, well, you know, Shane Waldron is the new offensive coordinator. At one point in time, he was a hand-picked offensive coordinator for Russell Wilson, who's a free agent. So you could theoretically trade Justin Fields, draft a rookie to learn behind Russell Wilson, and sign him in free agency to execute with Shane Waldron's offense. I don't like that idea, but it could be an idea. I think that there's still possibilities and options you could explore if you're Ryan Poles. He has come across as a very practical thinker, and I think practically speaking, he knows what's best for this football team. What's best for the Bears is to reset the clock, lean on your defense, draft a rookie who could be the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and take your chances with what you have at the 9th pick and all the space in the salary cap you have going into free agency.
David, I can't imagine, but I'm going to have to, the Bears not playing at Soldier Field, but we know what the NFL is all about. So lay this out for us here. What are the options here for the Bears and a timeline, a new stadium, and how, if at all, does Jerry Reinsdorf's $1 billion wish for a new White Sox stadium kind of play into this?
Good question. It's complicated here in the Chicago area, and I say area because Arlington Heights is still the most likely destination for the Bears' new home, although there have been some hurdles that they've had to clear and not done it successfully yet. The obstacles are still in the way. Taxes that are higher than they thought they would be, the valuation and assessment of the property, a lot of things that are complicated, political and bureaucratic reasons for why it's not a slam dunk. The Sox complicate measures because the Bears' best leverage play is to look at the south lot, south of Soldier Field, and say, we want to build there. Well, how are you going to build there? Because you're not going to own your own stadium there, so you're going to have a mechanism in place where there's going to be the park district involved and all kinds of public monies, perhaps. But meanwhile, the Sox want to build about a mile away in the South Loop, and they want government money. Jerry Reinsdorf had the audacity to ask for $1 billion from state taxpayers in Illinois this week. So this will clear up, and there will be some sort of clarity by the end of the legislative session in Springfield by the end of May, ideally. I'm surprised the Bears have taken this long to have some sort of clarity there. Kevin Warren, I thought, was brought here to clean this up and to make the process go smoothly, and it's been anything but.
David, so we hear today that this salary cap expands by over 13%. The business of the NFL is better than it's ever been. You have the potential in Chicago of a brand new stadium down the road, and you still have Soldier Field. My question is it realistic to think that Chicago at some point could be a market with not one but two NFL franchises?
You know, that's a good question. It comes up every so often. I think that there would be some opposition league-wide to that. There might be some rules that make that hard to envision. I doubt it. I doubt it, even though I believe that it's an enticing possibility. And with the NFL, you know, everybody's making money right now, so I can understand the spirit of the question and why people might want to see it. But I do think that it would, to me, still seem more unlikely than likely at this point.
David, really appreciate you giving us some of your time. Know how busy your schedule is. We'll be listening for you and Mully on 670 The Score and the free-to-download Odyssey app. Hope you have a great week, and let's do it again soon.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
You got it. There he is, David Haw. You can hear him, Mully and Haw. Mornings on 670 The Score in Chicago in the free-to-download Odyssey app.
They're trading Justin Fields. But what you're suggesting, the idea that could you move down to, say, 3, 4, 6, and still get another quarterback?
I'm saying, and I don't know what any of this is going to look like because we haven't seen anybody at the combine. We haven't seen anybody's pro days. But if you want somebody that's going to come into Chicago and fit Chicago, Caleb Williams has already kind of telegraphed that he doesn't really want to be in Chicago. And I get that he might be this generational talent. Might be. It could be the best prospect since Andrew Luck. Slam dunk, fine. But if you're at 9, you still have your pick at 9. J.J. McCarthy will be there. Now, you need to bring in a veteran because I don't know that J.J. McCarthy is starting week 1, but a Michigan guy playing in Chicago, I don't know.
Well, it just goes to the why did you keep Eberflus conversation?
Yeah. But the Shane Waldron thing is an interesting thing. I think that the Bears as an organization have always kind of liked Russell Wilson. Like, remember when Russell Wilson had his list of teams that he would go to, and Chicago, I think, was one of them, and everybody's like, "Oh, what would Russell Wilson look like with the Bears?" Before he went to Denver, right? And now that Waldron is there, I'm like David, I don't like that, but I could see that. I could see the Bears saying, yeah, let's bring in Wilson to work with whoever it is that we draft and go from there. You know, it's an enviable position. As much as is riding on the decisions that Ryan Poles has to make, I think any NFL GM would love to be in his shoes right now just to play this out and build this roster in your likeness in the way that you want it built.
The Bears, the only team in NFL of the 32 teams, the franchise that doesn't have a 4,000-yard passer.
Yeah. No, I mean, the cynical Bear fan in me is like, it doesn't even matter. Why are we having this conversation? Because they'll screw it up. They'll screw it up. They always screw it up.
Wow, what's screwing up, and this is the part of the conversation I didn't know, like, I thought the stadium was like, okay, we're going to kind of leverage this and leverage that, and maybe everything's actually falling apart.
Yeah. It's sloppy, and politics are involved down there, and Kevin Warren. That's his insight on Kevin Warren. I thought was interesting as well. I mean, we view him as I view him as the guy that's just there to build a stadium, and he says a lot of things, and his actions haven't matched his words up to this point. But he says things that when you hear that as a fan, you're like, yeah, this is going to be, that's the guy that we need to be the president of this. Or really, he's just there to get a stadium deal done. But his actions haven't matched his rhetoric. Love that conversation. And I believe that is the first step in the offseason, the first domino that needs to fall, whether it's the Bears trading out of one or the Bears moving on from Justin Fields or both. Because you can do that. They have that option. It's all open for our guy, Ryan Poles.
Well, just get ready for the Caleb Williams, not mentally tough, Caleb Williams, like all the negative as we're going to kind of nitpick all these.
Yeah, and he was saying that there's a lot of things that are being reported about Williams that there aren't any sources or that aren't true. Like, I don't know, man. I kind of tend to believe what I read about Caleb Williams not wanting to come to Chicago or having at least at minimum people in his ear saying, go anywhere except Chicago. And it's for the reason that you cited. Like, it's quarterback purgatory. You want a 4,000-yard passer? You go anywhere but Chicago.
Do you know who holds the Bears franchise record for most yardages in the season?
Is it still Sid Luckman?
No.
Oh. I do. Is it Jim Miller?
Nope.
Oh, not Jim Miller. I'm thinking of Derek Kramer.
Eric Kramer.
Yeah, Eric Kramer. Boy, that was a fun season.
It's a former Lion. What's your record?
Yep. It's bad, man. Dude. It's bad. And then, so, again, the cynic in me it doesn't even matter because they'll screw it up no matter what they do. No matter what happens when it's all said and done, it'll get botched.
What will get botched is, hey, it's draft night, and Justin Fields still don't have anything, and teams take quarterbacks. And
well, if you're there at 1 and you're the Chicago Bears, and you're forced to make that pick, you're taking Williams. You have to. There's no other option. You're taking Caleb Williams. You're not passing up. You had the opportunity to draft Patrick Mahomes. You didn't take it. You're not passing. You're not making that mistake again. You're taking Williams, even if you haven't traded Justin Fields yet. You'll deal with that later. And you probably, by doing that, cheapen Justin Fields for a team that might want him on the field. Love that conversation. Looking forward to next week, man. Next week is going to be a lot of fun in Indianapolis. The Combine. We'll be talking to 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus.com's Mike Catalana from Indianapolis at some point on Monday as well, just to let him be our ears and eyes.
Yeah. I forget who said this week, but this feels like the NFL offseason has begun. Like you're getting reports today that the Dolphins are moving on from Xavier Howard. The idea that the NFL told teams, hey, it's going to be $255 million.
Yeah, that's big. So what does it mean for the Buffalo Bills? Not a lot. I mean, it means that you can basically wipe away your cap deficit with half of it with a restructure of Josh Allen. Maybe you have a little bit more to offer. If you wanted to make an offer to an outgoing free agent, you can maybe offer them a little bit more. But the work still needs to be done. Brandon Beane still has a lot of work to get cap compliant here.
Yeah, if I had to take like a blueprint here, Josh Allen, that's half of it. And then the other half, well, you hate to extend and do this, but your left tackle, Deion Dawkins, is a prime candidate for that. And you release 2 players that, okay, one was a good player for Buffalo, but I don't know what he offers you anymore in Tre'Davious White. And then nearly $5 million for Naeem Hines is just kind of sitting there waiting to be wiped off the book. So the Bills can do this, and I think it'll lessen the pain for, there's not going to be this big shocking move as far as a veteran being released, but it shouldn't raise your expectations in regards to, hey, the Bills are going to become a player here in free agency.
Now, with the news of the cap going up, you now have teams starting to negotiate deals. The word out of Tampa is that Baker Mayfield and the Bucs have begun their contract talks, and there'll be meetings during the Combine next week between Tampa's management and Mayfield's representation as well. And man, free agency. Dude, free agency is going to be here before we know it. It's March 13th. We're at the end of February, dude. It's going to be here like before we know it.
1 week from today is March.
Yeah. So there's a handful of notes from around the NFL, the big one being the explosion of the salary cap, up 13.6% to $255.4 million per team. And the Bills still have work to do. Let's get to a round of shots next in the sports bar.
Yeah, busy night tonight or this weekend. We've got RIT tonight. We got the Amerks tonight. We've got the Dad Mentors trip continuing here. A lot to get to. Oh, and Jim Boeheim Day tomorrow. And then I'm going to break the format here.
What?
Am I allowed to bring a non-sports story into shots?
Oh.
Just for my own amusement.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
okay, you're signing off on this.
Right. I give non-sports takes all the time. You can bring a non-sports story into a round of shots.
Very good.
We're going to have a good time with it?
I think so. It's a story, and then I'd be curious to get your take on it.
All right. Very good. We'll get to that and more next. A round of shots on the way. Last call coming up as well. You can pull up a stool at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening. Rochester Sports Update.
NFL teams have been told that the salary cap is going to go up to $255 million. This helps the Bills to get cap compliant. Chris Brown on One Bills Live laying out what's next.
For the Bills now, with this new cap of 255.4, they're anywhere from like 37 to 42 million over instead of 50 to 55 million over. So the number is better, because you could argue $13 million, what is that? Well, depending on how much you're willing to pay people, that could be as many as 3 players.
The Combine begins on Monday. Hockey night in the Flower City tonight as the Amerks once again hosting Belleville. Don Stevens will have your call beginning at 7 o'clock. The Sabres are in Columbus. Sabres hockey tonight can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. The RT men home tonight. It's the front end of the home and home final home game of the regular season as the Tigers host Canisius. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
If you want pure, unfiltered, unadulterated sports, you've come to the right place. 95.7 FM, The Fan, Rochester.
Feels really great. It was a surprise phone call. I wasn't expecting it, but this means a lot to me and, also to my family. So we're obviously all from here. We grew up Amerks fans, so this is a huge honor for me and my family.
Roy Fitzpatrick going into the Amerks Hall of Fame tonight. There he is earlier this week with us here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. We welcome you back in for a round of shots.
Yeah, unlike Rory McIlroy, Rory Fitzpatrick is indeed one of our own. As you mentioned tonight, he gets honored. Here's some fun facts here. Fitzpatrick traded with Pierre Turgeon, and part of that deal from Montreal to St. Louis. Fitzpatrick will go in. He's only the second player to go in for the Amerks, having played as the affiliate of Florida.
Oh, right.
Chris Taylor is the only other one. Trust me, I think that is it from that forgettable era.
That's right. That is a forgettable era. Like, we want to try to scrap that from memory. Who was behind all of that? We can talk freely about that now, right?
Well, it was Steve Donner who left the kind of organization in shambles. And by the way, he's now in Dothan, Alabama, trying to take more money down there. So good luck to them. Kurt Stiers comes in. He buys both the Amerks and the Nighthawks.
That's what it was.
But he didn't really care about the Amerks. Because it was like
a
lacrosse guy. And then at one point, Pagula, who had just bought the Sabres, what are we doing this for? Why is our minor league affiliate in Portland, Maine? This makes no sense. Can you imagine that? And it was back in 2011, right, when Pagula took over, okay, that's enough, wrote Stiers a check, and Stiers ended up leaving town anyway with the Nighthawks. So,
well, it's good that we have what we have. That does bring back some gnarly memories, but I love that Fitzpatrick is going in. I loved our conversation with him earlier this week. If you missed that, you can catch it wherever you get your podcasts. Just search out The Fan Rochester. My favorite answer to his question, we just wanted to ask him, hey, what's your greatest accomplishment?
And obviously, it'll be an emotional night. Like I said, there's been a lot of sacrifices, not only by me, but people close to me to be able to be a professional athlete. My kids made tremendous sacrifices. My wife made tremendous sacrifices. My family, mom and dad and brothers. So, I think from an athlete's perspective, I think just playing in the NHL is a huge accomplishment. But as just a person, I think my 4 kids are by far my biggest accomplishment. And their success, how well they're doing, means the world to me and speaks volumes of me and my wife and what we've done over the years.
He came close to the Cup, Danger. He was part of that 05-06 Sabre team, appearing in 11 games in that playoff run that would end up short in Carolina. Coverage of the ceremony, everything tonight, 7 o'clock on The Fan. The Dad and Mentors trip, as they call it, that continues for the Buffalo S's.
We don't say the S word here in the sports.
Right. That's one of those swear words. Buffalo playing in Columbus. Since December 30th, UPL has been really good. The Sabre goaltender, .933, and a goals against average of 1.82. Of course, actually scoring goals has been the issue for Buffalo. Buffalo returning home 6 p.m. for a game Sunday night against Carolina. Tonight's game is on 96.5 WCMF.
This would feel like a loss, right? Oh, you get the win the other night, and now you're going on the road to Columbus.
Wasn't Columbus the team that did 9 goals?
That's right.
That was right,
It feels like this is
9 times.
I'm not saying that history is going to repeat itself, but
I thought that was the game they were going to fire Don Granado. Like, nope, he's still here. In fact, they won against Toronto the next night.
They crushed Toronto the next night.
Congratulations to the RIT men's hockey team. The Tigers are the regular season champs of Atlantic hockey. Someone else finished off the job last night as Holy Cross was the only team left that could catch RIT, and they lost at Bentley. And since Holy Cross has now no games left, well, the Tigers, if they want to, they can rest players if they choose to for this weekend. Canisius is here for the front end of the home and home tonight. RIT gets the first round bye and the home ice throughout the playoffs. First playoff game is Friday, March 8th.
So what does that mean? You guys just going to pack it up? Nobody's showing up at the Policini tonight? No, it's going to be awesome because it's a great atmosphere. Last weekend was sold out on Saturday night. It's fun, and you have lots of options for your sports and entertainment. We're just saying that if you're going to go out and watch the Tigers, man, they are fun this year.
They are fun. We were in this position last year too. So and pretty much the band is back together. So what did they learn here? And Lev might be a little concerned.
Can you just update me on who their starting goaltender is?
Tommy Scarfoni.
Well, the reason why I ask, and they've won the regular season champs. They're the regular season champs of Atlantic hockey. Of course, they're the champs. Look at their goaltender. He's Italian, Gino. Of course, they're the regular season champs. You got Tommy Scarfoni. Come on.
Should be a packed dome tomorrow for Jim Boeheim Day. As we learned earlier talking to Mike Waters, the actual ceremony, it's not pregame, it's not halftime, it's actually after the game. You better beat Notre Dame. The Irish are not good. They're 10-16 overall. They're averaging a measly 62 points per game. And Notre Dame has the highest turnover rate in the ACC. So if FSU plays defensively well, this should be a win. It's a noon tip on ESPN.
My favorite would have been if they would have done this as a halftime ceremony and Boeheim runs long. And they have they have to tell them to wrap it up. Like, that would have been, me, I like to root for chaos. That would have been chaos. Like, who's going to tell Coach he needs to pipe down? He needs to shut up. He needs to get off the court. We need to play the second half. Because these are normally halftime festivities.
Well, the reason why they do it at halftime, too, you're asking everybody to stick around. And if you have all these former players and Boeheim himself and people speaking, and what are they doing from like noon to 1 to 2 to 3? And
yeah, it's a party.
Yeah, they're just drinking water the whole time.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Of course, they're well hydrated. Just nothing but Evian. That'll be fun, and you let Coach run as much as he wants to run after the game. And you're right, they got to win this one. Like, that's a little added pressure to the team. Like, you can't go into that ceremony with a loss against Notre Dame, a team you should beat. Get that win. Let's make it an afternoon. Let's have some fun in Syracuse.
Finally, this has zero to do with sports, but I just want to watch Danger's head explode. The latest Hollywood rumor is that only Murders in the Building co-stars, Martin Short and Meryl Streep, are actually dating in real life. The two spotted at dinner. I'm guessing he does not like football.
So Hollywood is crawling with outsiders and foreigners. And if we kick them all out, you'll have nothing to watch but football and mixed martial arts, which are not the arts. They gave me 3 seconds to say this, so.
Yeah, you want me to say something shocking or abrasive or
maybe you'll just be like, look, I'm in favor of love.
You want me to be crass. Every time I play that clip, I always think to myself, I feel bad for her. She's the top of her craft. There isn't a better actress living than Meryl Streep. Can we agree on that?
No, but I mean, we could have a debate, but sure, she's in the debate.
So she's in the debate. She's elite. And she's up there on stage being awarded for being elite. And instead of thanking the people that, helped her get there and being outwardly gracious about the moment and humble, and she used that platform to take that shot. And I feel like there's something wrong with.
How did we go from kicking foreigners out being left with football?
I feel bad for her. Just every time we play that clip, that's the first thing I think is I feel bad for Meryl Streep. I shouldn't feel bad for her. She's not thinking about anything that we shouldn't care what we think, but I feel sympathy for her. So the news that you're sharing with me, Gino, actually makes me feel a little less bad for her. I'm happy for her. I'm glad that she has somebody in her life that makes her happy or makes her smile. And maybe they will. Maybe come this fall, maybe Martin Short and Meryl Streep, or he's Canadian. Maybe he takes her to a Kings game. Just to
That's right.
Just to kind of like soften her up a little bit. Maybe you don't have to watch football every Sunday. We're not going to go to the MGM Grand and watch MMA, but let's start with the Kings game. Let's go to Crypto and watch the Kings, my native land north of the border. This is considered life. Hockey is life in Canada. And if she's found somebody that makes her happy, great. Kind of surprised about Martin Short. I didn't really know that he was out there single and looking to mingle. I didn't really know. Let's face it, I really don't know anything about Martin Short's personal life. So just hearing that he's dating Meryl Streep, good for him, I guess.
Yeah. And that show, Only Murders in the Building, it's the law of diminishing return. First year, fantastic. Second year, okay. Now we're bringing a third year. We got to bring in Meryl Streep. That always happens. Like, let's bring in a star to keep this going. Now they're going to a fourth. No, I'm done.
I'm not a big Martin Short fan, and I know that this is going to rub some people the wrong way, but I'm not a big Steve Martin fan either. And so the two of them
and Selena Gomez,
coupled with Selena Gomez, and I'm not a Selena Gomez fan. So there was like nothing there. But my daughters and my wife watched season 1, and they enjoyed season 1. And then I think season 2, halfway through season 2, they punted. They're like, yeah, no, we're done. We're over this. To hear that there's going to be a season 4, yeah, we're really, really stretching our return here. And who else can you bring? I mean, you brought in Meryl Streep to be on the show. If Meryl Streep isn't enough of a draw, who's next?
And Meryl Streep playing the struggling actress in season 3. Yeah, that's very believable.
Yeah, I just knew that show wasn't going to be my cup of tea, so I didn't really invest anything in it. But my kids and my wife liked season 1.
It's only a few blocks away from Blondie's. I can go down and shoot the Arconia there. So.
Oh, is that where you're going for your rotisserie league again this year? Your draft? Blondie's, eh?
You should come down. You want to come down to New York? Oh, actually, you're going to be your family trip. I forgot.
Oh, is that the first week of April that you're going? Yeah. I'll be toes in the beach, in the sand at a beach, and you'll be Hey, everybody, welcome to Blondie's, where we welcome in rotisserie league drafters everywhere, including from upstate New York. Give it up for Twisted Steel and Sex Appeal from Rochester, New York. Eugene, Worm, and all of the fans. Don't forget to say hi to Jade, stage 3. Jade, stage 3.
My friends do not call me Eugene.
Maybe they will now.
They will not.
Will the DJ at Blondie's call you that?
There is no DJ at Blondie's. Oh. There are no dancers at Blondie's.
Okay.
There are TV monitors,
sure, buddy,
and drinks and food.
Hey, fine. I envision that it's akin to the Barrel, but I'm sure it's classy, and I'm sure it's got a lot going on, and yeah, it's not something that...
Can I confess something? I didn't realize where the Barrel was until I drove by it. That's one of those like hidden, tucked away. I'm like, what is that? That's a different bar. I'm like, oh my gosh,
there
it
is.
About this.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah, nice. Let's get to last call at 866-432-6585, 866-4FAN. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America.
2-6, the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Last call on the Sports Bar. Going to give the bottom plate some playing time this weekend, boys. Got to get that playing time up for the bottom plate. Work on your cabinet chemistry. It's good for morale. It's good for kitchen morale. Gets everybody else talking. Make sure you do that at some point this weekend, and then come back and join us when we're back Monday afternoon for another round here in the Sports Bar. The Combine gets underway next Monday.
It's going to feel like football season next week. We're going to have a lot of Bills news here. As you're going to hear Sean McDermott talking on Monday, Brandon Beane talking on Tuesday. So we'll be talking to our Bills regulars next week from Indianapolis. Mike Catalano, we got to nail down the exact time, but let's just say somewhere in the 3 o'clock hour on Monday. Nate Geary from the Buffalo Bills Radio Network will give our first kind of takes from Nate here as we're approaching free agency, the draft, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and the big news from today, obviously, the NFL's salary cap announced, and it ballooned up to $255.4 million, up 13.6% year over year, which is good news for not just the Buffalo Bills, but every NFL team, especially the teams that were strapped with cash. But it does mean that Brandon Beane still has work to do, obviously, and we'll see if some of that work gets done starting next week in Indianapolis with the NFL Scouting Combine underway. Fun show this afternoon. Odyssey Rewind lets you go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed, including our conversation earlier this hour with David Hoff, Mully and Hoff from 670 The Score in Chicago. Lots of options for the Bears with that number 1 overall pick and what to do with Justin Fields. We'll be hearing more about that, I'm sure, over the course of the next week at the Combine. And Mike Waters, the Syracuse Post-Standard, stopped by to talk some Orange hoops at 3:25 earlier today. He joined us. And if you missed that conversation, we've got it up and available for you wherever you get your podcasts as well. Just search out the Sports Bar and you'll find us. Gino, have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Good call with RIT this week.
And we will also have St. John Fisher Women's Basketball Championship game tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Ooh, Empire 8 Championship game.
Yes.
All right, we'll look forward to that as well. Enjoy your sports weekend. We have Amerks hockey coming up for you. Belleville, the opponent tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Rory Fitzpatrick going into the Amerks Hall of Fame. Don Stevens will have your play-by-play here at your proud home of Rochester Americans hockey. JR Sport Brief first on the way next on The Fan Rochester.